Good evening. Happy Sunday, everybody. This is Matt with the Essential Credentials. This is episode 57 and a pretty exciting one because we are going to be talking about two big topics here. I think topics that a lot of people have probably experienced or are wondering about, but one of them is what it's like to sell a massive player collection that you spent years building. I think we all, everybody that's been on this show, including myself, knows how much work goes into that, but to make the decision to sell it is a pretty big deal. But also we're going to hear from Ryan, who's here today. What's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Nice to have you. Ryan's going to also talk about what it's like to find, purchase, and then sort and sell one of the more impressive, random, everything in it 90s collections that you'll probably hope to see. And even if you're not a collector of Pokemon, Digimon, or whatever else in between, I think we'd all have a good time going through there and at least having some nostalgia. So Ryan, thanks again for coming on. How's everything going, man?
Most definitely. Thanks for having me again. Things are going well, wide open as usual. Great time of the year in terms of with work and with everything the kids are involved in. We're at a game or a practice or something every evening, so the weekends are very precious right now to us. But it's been going well. How have you been doing?
Doing great. Thanks for agreeing to co-host with me today. This is going to be a fun episode. I think we both can agree this time of the year as teachers, you're starting to pick up. You're getting into your routines. Like you have kids at home. I have 20 in a classroom for 6.5 hours a day. But I think it's always nice to have something like this to break up the routine a little bit on the weekends and during the school year. And so glad you could make the time. It's been interesting. I know when I thought about because a lot of people have been asking questions. How come you sold all your A-rods, and why would you do this? It took you so long to put it together. And I think so many people had questions. I'm like, well, I can only think of one person that would be perfect for asking those questions for those people. And you did such a good job. We did that interview series where I had you and I think 11 other people on. It was really fun to talk to all of you. And then you interviewed me about my A-Rod collection. So I couldn't think of a better person to come on and do that. And it was funny because I asked Alan, he's been on here a few times. I go, hey, Alan, what would you think about this? He goes, you got to have Ryan do it. Don't even ask anybody else.
Well, thanks, Alan. No pressure at all.
He's a big fan. Yeah, he's a big fan.
No, man, I think I had a great time doing it last time. It's just a joy to be able to talk and see other people's perspective. But I guess, we both of us having that teaching background where we have that desire to kind of be asking the questions in a way. So I like kind of the role reversal at times. And tonight we get to do that. We kind of get to spend time in both seats. So talking about, the process of amassing an A-Rod collection and now disassembling it for other reasons. And then it's something that just kind of fell into my lap, just kind of flipping roles and talking about that. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be a fun conversation for sure. So we'll just kind of I guess you ready to get going?
Yeah. I did want to say too, I think people should definitely realize the reason why. Again, for me, I think that this is a good choice to have you ask these questions is our collecting style. I think if people can reflect a little bit and think about what kind of collector are you? I think nowadays, like you were mentioning, there's just so much, focus on the investment side of things. We joke about the whole hashtag invest, but you said something quite profound 2 years ago. And I told you that it had a big impact on me, and Tyler has said the same, is just collecting with your heart, really, and collecting what you really, really enjoy. And if you have certain cards that, you think someone would enjoy more than you, then not being afraid to let those go and have them enjoy them. And I think that really kind of set me on a path slowly and surely to really collecting what I truly cared about and enjoyed. I know there's not a ton of sentimental collectors out there, maybe more than I think, but you and I both collect that way. We've talked about Freddie and just how amazing of a person he is off the field. And so I think that whole conversation 2 years ago, believe it or not, kind of set me on the path of all the questions you're about to ask. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think if we look back when we first started collecting as kids, you go back and you think about those cards that were special to you, that were in the front page of that binder. And, if you still have that and you see those cards are probably not the most valuable cards that you could collect. And I think that's what ties most of us back to collecting is the roots to it. And of course, over time we start learning what value is. And of course, we start placing value on those cards because it does make it meaningful. But at the end of the day, most of the people who collect from a nostalgic point of view, that's not the driving force of how we collect, why we collect, or why we would want to sell a card or a collection of cards. So if you look at a lot of the people that we know, that we've met through Facebook groups, you think about how they collect. You think about Aaron Davis, who collects a lot of different things, but you can see the joy in how he collects. It's not about the value of it. You look at just a lot of other guys like Nate. Nate has an amazing Bonds collection, but he collects Tim Lincecum, and he's a Giants fan. Congratulations, by the way, Nate. There's just this piece that you can tell it's important to them. If the cards, were gone tomorrow, it was not necessarily about the cards. It's about the memories. It's about the connections. Mm-hmm. So right. I think, that conversation we had then, that was something that was going through my mind, because when I got back in collecting, I was all over the place, and I knew I needed some direction. So I had to really sit down and say, okay, what's important to me, and why do I want to pursue this? And so from that conversation, we kind of move into this one after a couple of years. And, you spent a very large amount of time amassing this amazing A-Rod collection. And, you come to a point where you've decided, something's got to change, kind of give us just a little bit of backstory. I know a lot of people know, mm-hmm. the process you went through, but there may be some people who's watching this podcast that really don't know when it started, kind of how large the collection got, and what brought you to the point where you made this decision to start moving that collection.
Okay. I think starting with why I collected A-Rod, I remember getting done with the school year, and what that feeling is like that day after school ends. You wake up on Saturday morning, the school year is over, and you're kind of like, okay, like my brain doesn't have to think about the 1,000 things that teachers think of every day, even when they're not at work. And for some reason, it was amazing. It just hit me. I was sitting in bed. I was on my laptop, just kind of looking at sports stuff, and it just hit me like I should collect again. For some reason, it just was like, it's the time to do it. It's gone through a few life changes. I had some more free time. And so I went on to ComC. I'd been on there many times, just wanting to collect again, and I never really did it. And I thought, well, A-Rod makes perfect sense. He's in most of everything. He's on my favorite baseball team. My grandpa was there when I got his autograph, which is right here next to me. And so there was an emotional connection right from the get-go. And so I put a cart full of like 36 to 40 things somewhere in there, can't remember, and hit order. And then from there, I went and ordered a couple boxes of 90s stuff, which looking now is a steal, off of like Baseball Card Exchange, I believe, or something like that. It's like $100, like 3 boxes. It was incredible. Wow. So I kind of started there, and I actually was doing a blog with a buddy on some blogging website, and I was doing box reviews and that kind of stuff. And so I kind of went from there, and then I got onto sports. Is it Sport Card Forum? Is that the one that most people use, or Freedom?
Yeah, Freedom Cardboard or something like that.
I think it was Freedom Cardboard then. Yeah, so I was on there, and there was kind of a forum of 90s inserts, and I thought, well, I should really kind of focus on A-Rod, and this thread will kind of help me. I think it was called like Show Off Your 90s Inserts will help me know what cards to look for. So fast forward about a year in, I had some ups and downs. I'd missed some cards that, looking back, I should have gone a little bit harder for, but got some amazing cards, found the holographics, and found some, just like substantial cards that I thought were perfect for a 90s collector, and found the Facebook group. Thanks to Nate. He invited me. And from there, really just, as when you get into that group, you see all the passion of the collectors, and you're all kind of motivating each other to, find new cards and help each other find cards, and building up those relationships, which I've said time and time again is the best part of collecting. The cards are amazing. I think we can all agree on that. There's an amazing feeling that comes over you when you get a really nice card in, but the feeling of having a good friendship with some collectors out there, there's nothing that can replace that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want you to keep going with that thought, but I do want to make something that you said there kind of made me think, when we see those other collectors in those groups post cards, we go after them, but it have more of a connection to that process at that point. And I noticed that when I would start chasing certain Javi Lopez cards, like it was just going out there trying to find something that everybody else, not that that's what they had, but it created this cohesiveness within the group. People were supporting you. They were trying to help you out. So you did continue to have a deep connection to what you were collecting, because even though you're going to move these cards, I think you're still going to have those connections. So I think that's a great point that you bring up about the group and how that encouraged, your collection. So sorry for interrupting.
No, that's perfect. I'm glad you bring that up because, yeah, I mean, Ray was saying it there. I mean, there's Ray was a huge motivator because, you see people like Ray and Nate and Greg and, Tyler and you and all these people with these amazing player collections and how much they love and enjoy it. And you think to yourself, like, I want to know what that feeling is like. And so for me, collecting A-Rod was partly that was just obviously the chase and the hunt is that you can't really get that emotional high from anything else, as a collector than finding like, oh man, I just landed the quantum leap. I can't believe it. Like I was on a high for like a week and a half after getting that card and just hearing its story and everything. And so, there was a lot of moments like that kept me invigorated. And I just, had a completionist mindset. I thought, other than like the out of reach PMG type cards, I knew that I could, hopefully find most of the cards that most, people like Nate and Ben Franklin, who had been collecting for way longer, Brandt as well. All those amazing 90s inserts, like I can get some of these and have a really nice collection. So over the 5.5, almost 6 years, I got about 1,220 unique A-Rods, including base cards and all that stuff, because I wanted to have a well-rounded collection. That's what I wanted. If anybody came and saw it, that they would see he's got kind of a little bit of everything. And it grew substantially because of those connections, people reaching out and saying, do you have this? Or, hey, did you see this auction? And because of collecting A-Rod, I've made some of my better friends in life. I got you and Will and Tyler and Jeremy and Andy and Alan and Greg and Nate, and all the list goes on. Ray, lots of different people that I just enjoy interacting with. And so that's been just as much fun. Like going to the National, that will still be one of the all-timers in my memory, and I would love to experience that again. And Alan even said it in his video yesterday. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but Greg mentioned to him, like, there will be no replacing the feeling of being there in 2019, because the three of us were on this like super high, a peak of collecting our players, because we were wide-eyed. There was so much that we didn't have of our players, well, except Greg. He had pretty much everything except the Prime Choice Reserve, which we unfortunately didn't find. But there's nothing that's going to replace that. And so I would have never had that experience had I not started collecting card stock of a baseball player 6 years ago. So yeah. I mean, that's kind of the gist. I think I had a lot of cards specifically that I wanted to go for, partly because I liked the way they looked and partly because of how desirable they were amongst the community. You know how that is, right? Like everybody's like, oh, you should try to get that. And one person shares theirs and all of a sudden there's 30, quantum leaps all over the page. And you're just sitting there like a little tear coming down, like I want to see an A-Rod. So it was overall a fulfilling experience, and one that I look back on already with a lot of positivity,
Yeah, that's great. Cause that's something that I haven't posted a lot in the 90s group in a while, mainly because I haven't really had many pickups, but I still am there. I'm still seeing what everybody posts. You see that one card come up early in the day and here comes everybody else bringing theirs out. So you get to see just the uniqueness of everyone's collection, or you see players that you typically wouldn't see. Those cards kind of surface, or you see a card come out of the blue that no one's seen in a long time, and maybe a new collector to the group, or someone who's just kind of had it stored away for a long time. So, I feel like that, we talk about how, if you want to get philosophical, people talk about, life's about the journey, not the destination, Aerosmith quote, right? But when you're searching for those cards, when you are You've made that connection with people, and now you're on that adventure. I mean, we kind of take those memories. Those seem to last longer than what we get sometimes when you pull the card out. I mean, there's some cards that I pull out from the collection and I like the card, but the memory connected to the journey, the insight I got from other people, that was key to me. And I think a lot of us who are nostalgic collectors, that's what we thrive on. It's this, that visceral connection we can make to the hobby, but to other people. And that's really what drives us to collect. So, man, thank you for sharing kind of the background of all that. So now we're kind of moving another direction. You know, you're making a pretty significant change. So
Yeah.
what was the driving force behind you making this move from a 1,200 plus card collection now to making a decision to move it and start moving into a completely different direction in hockey and specifically Fleury?
Man, so it kind of started when COVID hit. I think we all can agree that when the whole pandemic hit, we had a lot of time to sit down and think. And some people use that time to find new passions and rediscover collecting. I know there's a lot of people that got back into collecting.
Yes.
For me, it was interesting because I remember probably, I don't know, about a week into it, I was sitting at my desk and I was thinking, like, I feel like I want to, find something to keep me excited. And collecting has always done that. But I was at a point with my A-Rod collection where I was pretty much found everything that I could hope to have. And, and that's fine. But when you're kind of sitting stagnant as a collector, you want to have that feeling of card coming in the mail, or at least posting cards and maybe moving some cards, just so there's some kind of movement within the hobby. And I had always kind of dabbled in hockey, believe it or not. That first ComC order, I ordered one hockey card of a player named Jocelyn Thibault, who you might have heard of. And, or your son definitely knows who he is now.
Of course.
But it was one of those like die cut mask cards. And I remember like thinking, that is so cool. It's acetate. Like, this is an amazing card. And I got an A-Rod, so I kind of set it off to the side. But it was so easy for me to decide to start collecting him because most of his cards are in the 90s and early 2000s. So a lot of Pacific flavor, Fleer, and Tops and all that stuff. And I remember my dad buying me his rookie card when I was very, very young, because hockey was the first sport that we collected together. My dad had some sets of our Pinnacle. He loved the Pinnacle masks, and he always tried to get me some of those at the hockey store. So it was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to collect Jocelyn Thibault. He's got so many cards that I've never seen and that were so different from all the baseball cards. So just having that experience, and having a Sport Lots order of, 150 cards come in at once from one guy was just, it was kind of overwhelming, but it was amazing to, discover some of these inserts for the first time. So it was kind of like I went from the same genre of cards, but just collecting the sport that I loved before baseball, and having that connection to my dad. I'll never forget telling him that I decided to do that. And at first he's like, well, why aren't you collecting Tom Barraza? That was your favorite goalie as a kid. And I said, well, I was, but I met this guy named Nick on Instagram, which I'll get into. And he was like the Tom Barraza collector. So I'm like, well, nope, I can't do Tom Barraza because he'll just buy everything. So I decided to collect a player that I really liked growing up when I was little. And so that kind of set me on the path for hockey. And I did that for about 6 months and really got into it and landed some, once in a lifetime 90s inserts of him that I couldn't find of A-Rod for a bit cheaper. So I thought, okay, I'm really happy with this decision. But I hadn't sold any A-Rods. I'd sold maybe, a few autographs and things that I wasn't too keen on, just to have some money to buy those two big Thibaults that I got. So after that, I kind of was like, okay, this feels pretty good. But then again, Thibault didn't have a ton of cards. Like, he's got some, but at that point I was like kind of stagnant again. I'm like, okay, now what? Like, what do I do? So I collected a guy named Alex Burrows for a little bit, same last name, and my dad's favorite player on the Canucks. And it was kind of fun. But then I realized, like, man, the skater cards, they all look the same. Like, the goalies are cool because they look so different, and I think they just stood out so much. You and I have talked about this, being a Nashville fan. You've seen all those Pecorine cards, and going through that collection that we're going to talk about later, you've seen all the goalie cards. They're all different because of the colors and the poses, and there's just so much going on with them. I thought, I should definitely stick with the goalie theme. So long story short, I put the complete Young Guns set together of goalies, which I took me about 4 months, and I sold I'm sorry, Ray, I have to say it. I sold all my Ichiros. I had a really nice Ichiro collection, but I doubled my money that I spent on them. So I'm not going to complain. I mean, it helped me put together a set that probably, I don't know, maybe 20 people probably have. While doing that, my favorite card I got from it was Marc-Andre Fleury's Young Gun rookie. I remember just being over the moon and thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I paid that much for a hockey card, which now it's worth double. So I feel pretty good. But so that's kind of where it started. I mean, I remember buying that Fleury card and thinking, I should kind of go grab a few more and see how this goes. And I slowly just was getting just some basic stuff, nothing crazy. And that was one of the moments where I thought, oh, okay, I feel something happening here.
Yeah. So with Fleury himself, we've had conversations, and one, he's a spectacular goalie. That goes without saying, but there's some other things that I'm sure draw you to him outside of just his play. I'm sure there's some other connections, maybe with the teams he's played with, or just him and his personality. Could you talk about that or elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury was such an easy decision. I mean, he was on the Penguins. He was drafted there my senior year of high school. And my dad, when I was very, very young, had a Penguins poster that he bought for me that hung on my wall. It was to the right of me where I laid in my bed. And there was Yager and Barrasso and Mario Lemieux, Ron Francis, Paul Coffey, all those great players on a poster. And so my favorite team was the Penguins. And I always wanted to be a goalie growing up. It's one of my few life regrets. I do not have very many, but one of them is not pushing my parents to help me become one, because that's just, I would have loved it. And we live close to a hockey rink too, ish. So I missed out on that. But I mean, I think just like Freddie Freeman, and we've had chats about this, it's, what Marc-Andre Fleury embodies off the ice and on the ice, beyond his performance, beyond his athleticism and his play that leads his team to victories, is the way that he is. He's a family man off the ice. He's very supportive of kids and being a good role model for them. He's always having fun. That's the biggest thing. Any of us that are our age that even try to play competitive sports, we have this competitiveness in us that makes us like a little stressed or talking trash or whatever, but just kind of being a little edgy. And I just love him because when he gives up a goal, he typically you can tell he's frustrated, but he just kind of snaps right back into it. But it's the big saves, in the heat of the moment, he makes a diving save, one of the best saves of all time, and he stands up and he's got a huge grin on his face. Like, you can just tell the guy is having so much fun out there, and he's a prankster in the locker room, and he's funny in his interviews, and there's just so much to like about the guy. I think it was a super easy decision for me because I can, I kind of look up to that kind of behavior as an athlete, but I also think there's some connections there with how I would approach playing the game. So all those things kind of go into it. But I mean, you watch athletes, and I feel like there's so many of them that are so focused and straight faced, and I love seeing athletes performing at the peak of performance in their sport and doing it with a smile on their face, knowing that they're just in that zone,
Yeah, I think there's probably a personality connection for sure. I think about a player that I really like, played for the Braves, played for the Orioles, and Nick Markakis. I mean, he's just a great player. He's a great teammate, but he's stoic. Whereas, Freeman, he's a little more loose. He's smiling, and that's something that I noticed when you would post flower cards. That a lot of those pictures they had on the cards, he's grinning, he's smiling. Maybe it's behind the mask, maybe he doesn't have it on.
Yeah, right.
You can just tell he enjoys what he does. You can tell that he's a favorite, in the locker room. So, I could see why you would connect with that for sure. And just, I knew who he was, and I got back into watching hockey just a few years ago, but just seeing him playing at Vegas, I mean, I knew who he was when he was with the Penguins, but just the stops, the plays that he makes that are like completely. He has technique. I mean, he had to have certain type of technique to be able to make that play, to be in position to make it. But it just looks
Right.
completely like it's just out of nowhere. Just the flailing and the movements and the flipping and backhand, pucks with his glove, and
Yeah.
it's just crazy the things that he does. And he's such a fun player to watch. So yeah, I see your point there, and I see that probably is another reason why it's so fun to get a card of his, no matter what it is, because uh, that it means more than just I've added this number to the collection. You talked
Yes.
about getting a ComC order in or a big order in.
Mhm.
When I get a Javi Lopez order in from ComC or something, I've got the folios, and it's so much. I mean, I feel like a kid again. Like I've got them in order. I was like, I know where this one goes in the binder. I'm ready to slide it in.
Yeah.
So I can see how that connects.
Oh,
It's
it
great.
definitely does, man. And I think it's brought more joy back to, like you said, like even the base cards, because every card that has come in, either a base card to the most expensive card, the picture on it it means so much to kind of study. Okay, like what setup does he have on? Can I find a picture on Getty Images from that game, and then look up the score of that game? Like I've really gone in depth, like with the cards that I have here that I'll be able to show a few of them. I've gone and found most of the pictures from the press that they used on these cards, and then finding the backstory of them. I think it just adds a lot more depth, and I really never did that with A-Rod. Sure, it was more about building a complete collection as opposed to finding cards of Fleury that are going to have a deeper meaning and a deeper connection, and just more. It's been more enjoyable. I think that's why some people might find it hard to believe, like, how could you move on from 1200? You were that far into the collection. Why decide to cut it loose? And I think it was an easier decision than I ever thought it could be, because I remember I told Tyler this. I wish he was here watching, but he just had a baby. Congratulations to Tyler and
Yes.
Kelly Mild on their baby daughter. But I remember being on my computer this spring. It was around spring break, and there was a flurry, like 3 flurries that came up with very decent prices. And I remember having this feeling come over me. I said, Tyler, I think I need to sell my A-Rod collection, all of it, to start collecting flurry, because these cards are just going to keep going up. So, and he goes, don't you dare do it. And, I respect him for that, because he, as a friend, you need to have both shoulders, but I think he understood later on. But I remember having that feeling and thinking, okay, I need to, this is something I'm really going to pursue. And, I'm glad that I did. But it always starts with a thought, and you have to get through the stages of grief. Like I remember looking through those A-Rods and thinking, can I really not, could I imagine not having that? I can't look at this card ever again. So, I mean, I know that you're going to ask about that, but I just wanted to mention that I remember that feeling specifically this last spring break, and thinking like, all right, I think it's going to happen soon.
Yeah, no, that's a great lead in to kind of where we're going next with this. And, something you just said made me think about something I had heard. Matter of fact, I think it was George Lucas. He had spoke to some students at a college, and he had brought up the difference between pleasure and joy. And there's a lot of cards that we get pleasure from, but it kind of peaks. And, Tyler's trying to say, hey, man, you've spent all this time collecting this. Don't allow a moment of pleasure of something else that you think you want to collect supersede something you've spent so much time and effort and energy and money in.
Mm-hmm.
But you really are just shifting you're shifting your joy to something else, and joy's a lot longer lasting. It's something that's deeper. And that pleasure thing is, you got to keep one up in yourself every time to get that same feeling. But when you really connect to something that you enjoy doing, that really brings you joy, it's a whole lot easier. So I can hear it in your voice, and I can tell definitely, especially with your post and the cards that you share with us in our Facebook group. It's great. So we talked about the idea that everything's being sold off, but we've also talked about, and you mentioned it, you've already mentioned it tonight, you wanted to be purposeful. You had a mindset of being really focused on, one, which cards you sold, but two, not necessarily who you sold them to, but the approach that you were going to take when you let these cards go. So kind of what process did you go through to decide, like, okay, how am I going to decide what's going to go, and not necessarily who, but the type of collector you want it to go to?
It was kind of in I don't know, in stages. Like the first stage was, I was talking with Andy Burkett, who we've had on here a few times. Andy's just, he would be fun to talk to because he's had that money burning a hole in his pocket. He's just been, having some fun. So I can kind of relate to that in essence. But, he talked to me, he goes, hey, Matt, if you really, really want to collect Fleury, because you know how it is, like you ask mom, being Tyler, sorry, Tyler, it says no. So you go ask dad to see if he'll give you the okay on getting a treat or whatever. But I said, hey, Andy, I really feel like this is something I want to do. And he goes, well, hey, here's the thought, Matt. He said, get your A-Rod collection narrowed down to a certain number. Like find your favorite of the favorites and see what's left. So I did that. I got it down to like 155 cards. And I said, okay, well, the rest is going to go then. And I said, I don't know if I want to just sell. Maybe I'll sell it in one big shot. But the first stage was cutting the autographs loose because Tyler actually said, well, I only have 2 autographs in McGuire. You don't need that many A-Rod autographs. So as you remember, I did my first sale and nobody really raised any questions at that point, which was kind of funny. So I sold most of the autographs and got a little bit of money that helped me buy a couple Fleuries, really nice ones actually. And from there, I said, okay, what's next? So I'm not going to mention who because I haven't asked permission to say his name on here, but I have somebody who's putting together a master A-Rod collection, like every A-Rod card that he's ever had and getting most of them graded, which I can respect because that's going to be a long process. But he and I did a deal for some of the ones that he was missing on like the lower end, like the ones that I could easily let go. So those left. And then I got down to the rest and besides the 155. And so I kind of did a couple sales here and there and had a little bit of luck. Alan grabbed a couple, and I'm only saying this because he's posted videos. So I'm sure he won't mind, but, and then some other people bought them, some other collectors. And I was like, okay, got a little bit of money to play with. I've been able to pick up some Fleuries that I've been had on my watch list for a while. This is good. But I thought, well, I mean, once you get started, you might as well just keep going. I've looked at these cards so many times. I looked at them one last time and thought, even the 155, I thought I'm ready to move on from this because I have a deeper connection to connecting Fleury than I ever had with A-Rod. Even the cards that had really big stories attached to them. So I was able to do a pretty big bulk deal with 2 people. And one of them was the guy who's putting the master collection together, but the other was a person in Hawaii whose son he was collecting with. And that really, as you know, as a teacher, that really made me okay with letting that many go. Probably for, maybe a little bit better price than I could have got selling them individually, which would have been a huge pain, honestly, selling, 500 or so A-Rods individually, including base cards. And so I kind of put a package together for he and his son and sent those all over to them. And they're looking through them this evening, actually, for the first time together. So that's going to be fun. And so after most of those were gone, I was left with, the big ones, the Quantum Leap, the holographics, the, View to a Thrill out of 10, which I don't know if anybody watches Alan's channel, but you might have seen it there. But I thought to myself, and then the Flare Redemption, I thought, if I want to sleep at night knowing these cards are gone, who would I feel happy knowing that they're in their collection? Obviously, they were interested, so I didn't like, hey, you should buy this from me. It's like, hey, you mentioned that you might be looking for this. So I knew that Jeremy was missing a couple that he really, really regretted selling, and I had both of them, and plus some others he was looking for. So we put together a deal, and I feel very happy to be able to put those cards in essence back in his collection because he collects A-Rod like I collect Fleury. So I knew I would be okay with that. And the View to a Thrill out of 10 was my big national purchase, probably one of the coolest experiences I've had thus far in collecting, and celebrating it with Alan and Greg and Rodney, who was there. And I thought, well, I could get more money for this card if I just put it on eBay. But I think Alan he's always talked about this card. I wonder if he would be interested. And he ended up, working with me. And by the way, Alan, when you watch this, you have to go car shopping with me. You're going to be the best negotiator ever. He told me that he would. So yeah. And glass half full, Jeremy. Glass half full, buddy. Yeah, so he actually was very, very fair. We had a bit of fun with it, but and he just posted a video last night revealing that card and talking about how much it meant to him for like 10 minutes. So I knew that it was in the right collection there. And then the big Flair redemption actually went back to Bo, who I bought it from. So I'm glad it's so those four cards I know where they're at, and I know that they're going to be well taken care of. So, the rest of them I was able to kind of piece out the different people who I knew were enthusiastic collectors. I had an Essential Credentials. That was my one. And a guy reached out to me and like I have with Fleury on eBay, sending messages to sellers telling them how much I would love to have a certain card. This guy was very, very adamant about having this Essential Credentials. I was like, this is going to be pretty cool. So most of them, a few went to maybe people that I've never worked with before, but most of the big ones went to people who I knew really, really loved cards. And I think we could all, in essence, hope that if we were to ever sell our collections as sentimental collectors ourselves. So yeah, I felt really good about it. And obviously the money didn't hurt. It's been really, it's allowed me to be a little more free and aggressive, I guess, with, cards that have been sitting on the watch list that are kind of dream cards in essence. Yeah. So anyways, it was a fun experience. It was really, really stressful at times just because it was a lot of work, but it was fun at the end of the day.
Well, that creates, more opportunities for you to, those funds allow you to do that because you're going after something that you're going to have that same feeling that Jeremy has now with the A-Rod cards. Mm-hmm. But that feeling that you have when you're getting cards out to someone who really will cherish that as part of their collection as much as you think about that feeling you get with an Andre, Fleury, or you get with a Freddie Freeman, or whatever another collector gets. I think that means as much to us as a collector as getting a card ourselves. And I think that was one of the questions I had, but you answered it already. Was I believe those folks that purchased those cards, they understood your mindset, and so for them that just creates another connection, or a deeper connection again to you, and it sets up for a long-term relationship that that can continue with some who might have been people that you've made some deals with that you knew, but in really just kind of not necessarily not reestablish, but that makes those connections tighter with people you already had it with. So I think that's great. So at this point, how many A-Rods do you have still?
I haven't counted them, but the A-Rods that I did keep, which won't surprise too many people, this is the one and only Mike Kramer. He's pretty excited that I kept all the Pacific A-Rods. Going and meeting Mike in person was just, it was beyond anything I could have ever hoped for when Greg and I started the Essential Credentials. I always thought, man, it would be really cool to talk to somebody who had their hand in on making these cards that we all love so much. And then so started with talking to Jean, who is silent. Her and her husband are signed by Upper Deck right now, which makes me very happy. And then going to meet Mike at his home and seeing, his museum of Pacific cards, it really established a deeper connection with that brand. And I thought to myself, there's no way I can get rid of any of these. Like it's too special of a collection to let go. And then I can still kind of collect A-Rod. Like I don't have to completely cut loose. And, when Mike sent me that Wild Vinyl as a gift, one of the toughest cards for any 90s collector for baseball. I thought to myself, I can't give up on this. Like I can actually focus in on an A-Rod master collection. And when one of those missing pieces comes up, really kind of be aggressive for it. And
I can see how that fills that piece of, I want to be a completionist, or that desire to complete something, but now you can do it in a much narrower window, but you do it with something that you have a much deeper connection with. Yeah. You have developed such a good relationship with Mike, and he's, entrusted you with material that hopefully at some point we can do justice to share with others at some point. But yeah, that's great. So did you keep did you decide to keep any cards that weren't Pacific cards?
I think I have a couple that I said keep. One was an autograph that was sent to me by a person named Alexander, who used to be a little more active in the group, you remember. But he sent me an A-Rod that he got autographed at a minor league game, and he also sent me the ticket from that game. I thought that it's too special of a gesture to let go, but just the memory that he had, and then to let it go to me. I feel like it wouldn't be doing him any justice by getting rid of it. And whoever got it couldn't possibly have that kind of connection to that unless they maybe were at the game that he was at. So I thought I definitely need to keep this so I can have an autograph, because he doesn't have any Pacific autograph. Well, he does have some, sorry. He has a couple, which I don't own yet. But I kept that. And then I have my favorite rookie card of him, which is his Flair rookie. Everybody knows that rookie card of A-Rod, but he's in his teal jersey, and it's just Gene designed it. Like, it's just a beautiful card. And I also have a card that Alan sent to me, and you pulled a Griffey of this in your Ultra Box break. One of the cool. That was so cool to see that card come out of the pack. But I have the gold parallel that Alan sent to me. I have them both still, but I'm probably just going to keep the one unless somebody really wants them both. But but he has one. Yes, of course, the one with the fake leather thing. But so sorry, I just saw this, but so I've kept a couple, and then I have, he had that Road to 500 set, and I actually have the card that has home run number 23 on it, which is my first baseball game ever that A-Rod happened to hit a home run there that I was at with my dad. So I kept just a few, but once you get going, once you start selling some of them, you kind of have to, release that connection, the emotional connection you have with all of them that aren't in that group. So those three will be put in the Pacific box and just kind of hidden away in there and whatnot. But that was it. I made the decision, like, it's got to be pretty much all or nothing. And I've always been that kind of person, I guess. Well, I don't know about you, Ryan. Like, if you started selling your Freemans, would you just sell a couple, or would it just be like the floodgates open? I mean, or Javi, for that matter.
Yeah. I think Javi was kind of one of those commitments that I knew I was probably going to be the only person that was going to pay what I paid for some of those cards. Yeah. But I think that collection is a lot like your, kind of how you did your Fleury collection. It was, this was a guy that I loved from that era, or more or less not your Fleury collection, but starting with Tebow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tebow, because Barrasso was kind of off the table. I liked Chipper Jones growing up, but Chipper Jones was kind of off the table for me because there's so many collectors out there. And it kind of got out of the range that I want to stay in. So I connected back to Javi Lopez. So, but with the Freeman stuff, like I actually have duplicate autographs that for a long time I had a hard time just selling off a duplicate autograph. Mm-hmm. But the ongoing conversations we had about getting those cards into people's, the hands of people who would enjoy them. And so some opportunities have come up to move a few of those, but I think the massive amount of cards that in the modern collectors can go after now, it makes it a little bit easier to sell something, because, a really nice card that comes in that's out of 25 or 10, I know that there's going to be another 25 or out of 10 down the road, and that it might be a better design with it. So I could see how it would be very difficult to spend the time and the effort you put into building a collection of a lot of very difficult cards to find, and to be able to say, okay, I've got to make this decision to either cut ties completely and pick a Pacific area to focus on. So there. Thank you.
Golf clap.
Thank you.
That was a very good teacher joke right there. I like the
thank you
too. And then they just kind of look at you like, ha ha ha.
Yeah. So I get where you're coming from with that. It would be a difficult decision if I said, okay, I got to get rid of my Freeman collection, because that's something that I've thought about before, not necessarily to change directions, but from a family perspective and a financial perspective. If, of course, I would get rid of, something I'm collecting that's an extension of what I do for fun and not necessarily for the livelihood of my family. But there are some cards that's like, well, could I hide these 3? Maybe not. So
you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
So now that you've moved over to Flower, I'm going to call him Flower from now on.
He's the Flower man. That's right.
The greatest way to comment on him, the emojis that are out there. So, but so do you see some, or is there a major similarity or a major difference, or maybe something minor between collecting him and A-Rod? Like, what do you see is the biggest difference between it, but what at the same time might be as similar?
Well, I mean, I think the obvious answer for that is the difference is the majority of Fleury's cards, especially modern cards like 2010 on, are upper deck only because of the contract that they signed. There's some Panini mixed in there, which I think all of us hockey collectors wish they would come back. But that's definitely the biggest difference. And it's been really fun to look at the designs that, Fleury's earliest cards. So he was a rookie in 2003-04. So he's got some Pacific cards, some Fleer, some Tops, and so forth, and mixed in there in the early 2000 to 2010. And then from then on, it's all Panini upper deck. So a lot of patch autos, autographs, and game used jerseys, whatever. But also a big difference is, nowadays in baseball, is everything's actually game worn. And it reminds me of the 90s in baseball because all the A-Rod stuff was game worn. The gloves batting gloves had dirt on them. The jerseys sometimes were dirty. So I guess that going into a similarity, I like that there's that. Yeah.
Sorry, there's a thunderstorm at my house and it just lightened like.
Oh, I thought that was a kid falling behind you.
Timestamp that. That'd be funny.
I
Sorry about that.
If Ryan cuts out, I'll just continue it on my own, I guess. But so another similarity to obviously is like the sentimental connection, because my dad and I have a big connection with hockey, just like I did with my grandpa in baseball. And it's almost interesting, with my grandpa passing on. And after that happened, I think that's kind of when I started kind of going toward hockey. So, one of the cool things is to have my dad be excited and wanting to see cards, that I didn't do that with A-Rod for sure. He was like, whatever. I don't really know what these are special about these, but he loves seeing the hockey cards. So, I'd say the sentimental connection is a big similarity for sure.
That's great, man.
Yeah. Don't get shocked there, man. I get a little worried and see like a bolt come right through the window. And
I was like, whoa, because I am sitting pretty close to the window. It was a beautiful morning, and it's given away to thunderstorms, but
we just had a big one here too. It's funny because there was a hurricane on the East Coast, like a small one apparently, and it had a name and everything. We had one that was like twice the size, and it kind of came through Southeast Alaska, and it was just called a windy evening in Alaska. So got up to like 70 miles an hour, and
wow,
we made it through. All right. That's how it is here, I guess.
Wow. Well, I'll try to get back on track now. So,
that's funny.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So, with the Fleury cards, was there a top card that you were looking to knock off early on?
That's kind of interesting because I have the first big card I bought, and it kind of set the path. I think it kind of defined why I wanted to collect Fleury. We talked about his exuberance on the ice and him always having fun, but there was definitely, it was overwhelming because, when you first start collecting a player, especially when going from a different sport and from 90s to modern, there's just so much out there. Like, well, what should I be paying for this? And what should I be paying for this? And so, I think that was pretty tough for me. It was so much out there at the time, and I needed to figure out where his market was, and hockey was just starting. And last year he, won the Vezina Trophy. So there was a lot of excitement around Marc-Andre Fleury. And so I had to really kind of take the time and just kind of pick off some smaller stuff here and there and just figure out how I was going to attack, the bigger stuff, depending on what came up. But this was a pretty special one to me just because, you'll see the picture of him. He's got a nice big grin in there. Serial number to my favorite number, which is cool. But I mean, this really just kind of describes him on the ice, and he'll make a big save, and the camera will go to him, and he'll look like that, at his teammates.
Yeah.
And
that's such an incredible card, though. I mean, everything that's going on, and you've talked about hockey cards in other podcasts about just because of the setup. Mike's talked about it, the setup on the ice, the different angles they can shoot from, just the way the light works. But then with the goalies, all the colors, the mask. I mean, that card's just incredibly beautiful. And then he has such a nice autograph too. So
very consistent.
And then he inscribes his number with it as well. So, but on a canvas like that, that's just a beautiful card.
Yeah, thanks. No, that card, it was a really stressful experience, man. I've never collecting A-Rod for all those years. I never, and this almost kind of made me think like, man, is this gonna be worth it? I've never had a seller who I made an offer to each time the item got relisted and never got a bid, never respond to the offer, and then raise the price after making those offers after like a month. And at that point, I was literally deciding like, I am going to get this card. And so I finally bid the opening price, and I win it, of course. And then he doesn't ship it for like 4 days, and then he just marks it shipped and didn't put any tracking on. And I don't know who this guy is, but I'll never forget. I go, hey man, like, can I have a tracking number? I would love to just make sure, because I'm in Alaska. Things get off track sometimes. He goes, well, it doesn't say I have to put a tracking number, so I don't really think I'm going to, but I'll give it to you anyway. I was like, what the heck? Like, do you know how stressful this has already been for me? And then it
Thank
took,
you.
like, yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, man. And thankfully he put it in a small flat rate box. So it made it here within a few days. And it was kind of like a deep breath when it finally arrived, because I was a bit concerned he wouldn't, actually send me the card and just cancel the sale. And so anyways, but after that came in, I was like, okay, it's time. Like, I'm focusing on the autographs, especially, and kind of go from there. And there was definitely a few cards out there that caught my eye, but prior to selling the A-Rod collection, I'm like, well, I can't go after any of these, like, because A, I don't know the market well enough, and B, I can't afford to essentially overpay in essence for these cards. And so I'd seen a few people post. This is another one that I think I've shown a few times, but I've seen people post cards from this set. And again, hockey having actual game used pieces, like from a jersey that they wore in the game, made it just so much better to me. And so I had been eyeing this card for a little while. And I remember contacting the seller and coming up with a pretty good price on this, especially now for this card. And he was a former Knights fan, and he was moving some of his stuff. So I was able to come to a deal. And I remember sharing that with Tyler and seeing a friend be as excited as I was to get a cool card, because he also likes the Penguins, being from Pennsylvania. I thought, okay, this is all I'm going to really focus on in hockey. The Young Gun set was done. Tebow was kind of more or less done. I said 100% focus on Fleury. So once those two came in, it was just like, let's buckle up and go for a ride. And one thing I haven't really had a chance to mention a lot is because you don't have much time to be on there, is just how influential the Instagram community has been. There's a couple people from Instagram on here right now, Paul and Name as well. There have been so many people on Instagram over the last year and a half that have reached out to tell me about Fleury cards, or just seeing their collections, and just like in the 90s group and on Facebook did for me with A-Rod, they've done the same for me with my Fleury collection, and just keeping me focused and knowing what cards to go for, and being able to bounce prices off them, or see their collections and be like, man, it's so cool to see other passionate player collectors like me and you on Instagram collecting hockey. And that has been one of the more enjoyable experiences that I never thought would be even close to that when I started up Tomcat Sports Cards. I'm like, just post a few cards and maybe get a few likes and go find some other people to interact with. And it's done just as much, if not more, than the 90s group did on Facebook as far as building up connections with fellow collectors. It's been pretty unreal to think about it, and how quick it happened. Yes, and of course Schmidt Collector. He's on there as well, and Eric's on there. And so I think it's been it's been one of the better parts again of collecting hockey is just meeting all these people with these amazing collections, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. I try to spend more time with Instagram. And when I want to post something, I don't want to do it quickly because I want it to be well done. It's such the platform works really well. I mean, obviously it's designed for photography to, so to an extent, but it's just, I do see there's a lot of interactions between different social medias, but there you do have a different set of collectors in that area that you can branch out to. But it's just,
Right.
I love the platform when I get push notifications from you guys and see them. I see the card, you'll share it with us in Facebook, but then I see it on Instagram and it's just like, it's a notch more. I don't know what it is.
Well, there's just more of a story behind it too. I think that's something I really aim for, especially because you can post from your computer now. That's big for me. So I've got my scanner or I'll try to take a picture on my phone, but I try to give some background. What does the card mean to me? How did I obtain it? Did I see somebody else with a card similar who said, yeah, you should really try to look for one of these. Like, this really is amazing in person. And the hockey cards have done that more than the baseball cards, believe it or not. Well, I'll get certain cards in and you see them on a scan on eBay or something, or on ComC, like, these are kind of cool. And it comes in and you kind of have this like, whoa, this is better than I thought, and the A-Rod collection didn't do that as much because, we saw so many of the same cards posted in the Facebook group. So I knew what I was getting. But the hockey cards, there's always almost every big card that comes in, I go, oh wow, like this is better than I thought. And so Instagram really allows me to be a storyteller while at the same time interact with fellow collectors and be able to kind of give the cards justice, do them justice. It's just been, I highly recommend everybody to get on there and find a way to interact with other collectors. It's really a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, that's great insight as to how to use that platform. So this is kind of the fun part in terms of the questions for me is because this is one of my big goals for the last few months I have in the year to actually get there. So displaying your collection, I've seen your curios, you did a video, you shared those, and it's just so much. I think you can get a better appreciation for what you have that way. It may not be everything at once, but it allows you to enjoy your collection in different ways. So first of all, just tell me, kind of how you went about with the setup, how you kind of have them set up, and then what advice you might have for individuals who would want to kind of take that approach.
I'm looking over here. I'm going to grab a link and throw this in the chat for everybody. It does look a little bit different now with some different additions, but the cases are still there. I've always, you remember me having the bookshelves, and that was a really fun way to wake up every morning and see the cards, like all of them basically on display. But I kind of thought to myself, like, okay, if somebody comes over, like nobody's just going to walk into my bedroom and look at these. So I wanted more like a professional look to the display cases. And we have this furniture store here, furniture/electronics store that, had a curio cabinet, and it was a very skinny one. It's like not very wide, maybe 3 feet. It had some signed baseballs and basketballs in there. I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. So I went in, the government was nice enough to help us out during COVID. I got to buy my first new piece of furniture, which was my couch, which I love to death. And I was like, hey, as I'm leaving with my, couch, I go, what can you tell me about that? You've had that for a while. Like, oh yeah, it's blah, blah, blah. We can order these. I was like, you can. And so the double wide was only $50 more than the single wide. So I had him order one, which he was lucky enough. He ordered many, but hey, what's up, Unir? I thought this is going to be fun. So putting that thing together was a PETA, no doubt about it, because the instructions were very, very unclear, and like the steps were kind of backwards in essence. Like by the time I was done, I'm like, if I get another one of these, I'm going to do it way different. So I actually got a second one, and I originally had the A-Rod collection there, and I remember telling Alan this. I was looking at all the Fleury, and I was looking at my A-Rods. I'm like, it's not just the shiny new toy thing. Like that looks way better than that, And so that was another step that I was like, okay, I took them all out of there and I put Fleury non-autographed in there and autographed in the one on the right. And it really, it's really fun to have people come over. I've had plenty of people over here who don't collect, and so, you know, just watching their reactions to it and not really saying anything unless they ask questions has been great. And then for me, you know, I get to wake up and go to bed, and I look and I take a peek in there and look through the glass and see, like, this is what my hard-earned money has got me, and it's so cool to just kind of see them on display without getting dust on them like they were in here in the bookshelf. They're very, very well protected, and I think the last step is just ordering some lights because it's about to be winter here, which means it's darker longer than it's light. So there'll be a nice little thing to display in the evenings. But yeah, I really enjoy the idea of seeing the cards. I mean, they're so unique. Hockey cards are that I feel like they deserve to be given some justice, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, you should have called Tyler. We should have flew him up there to assemble it, because of all the things he's put together, baby beds and changing tables, and he didn't use the instructions, so he would have been perfect for it.
Well, yeah, he would have been great to have here. It's too bad he's you know, thousands of miles away. I did go see him, so I guess he does owe me one. But
that's right.
It's I'll do another video at some point, and maybe kind of when the lights are in there, and I show it with the lights off in the apartment, but actually have them lit up. But I think part of it doing something like that is to try to motivate others. Like, you know, Eric says, man, I wish I had enough room for one. Like, it's something that not a lot of people do. And you have a better connection with the cards when you can see them, some of them at least, as opposed to them all being boxed away. And I get it, you know, having kids and whatnot who would potentially open up the cases and bend the cards, like, just, you know, terrible to think about. I get that, but I think more people should think about it, because it's a conversation piece. You know, when somebody comes over and they're like, well, that card looks really interesting. What's going on here? Oh, let me tell you, you know, like, this is why it's special. So it's been really fun. You know, I actually had somebody over recently, and they are all into art and design. And they asked me about this card right here, the Platinum Portraits from Metal Universe that just came out recently. This card I didn't think I was going to be able to find one so soon, to be honest with you. But they asked about the process of that, and I could tell them that it took, you know, 15 to 30 minutes to make one of those, just one for the set. So design-wise, it's been really fun to talk to people about the artistic side of cards. So yeah,
I'm glad you showed that card, because I didn't know if it's something you're going to showcase later, but I had, you know, I definitely wanted to see it because of the connection to the 90s. You know, and I'm also curious, which this may be too early in the game with Gene and them, but I just wondered maybe if they had any hand in that set, because they had in the past, obviously, the influence they had, but by far right now in the hockey, or at least the people that I've seen collecting modern hockey, this set has had rave reviews.
It's been doing really, really well. You probably know that I'm a little salty about the set.
Yeah, I know.
Because had Fleury not opted to not play in the All-Star game 2 years ago, he'd have been in the set as a base player and as an All-Star card. So, you know, and I get it. You know, it happened. He didn't end on a good note last year. I mean, it wasn't his fault. He was benched for Robin Lehner, who's making a bit of noise right now. I wonder if Vegas regrets trading Marc-Andre, but yeah, they did not. I asked her on Instagram. I said, hey, did you have any, any hand in on this design? They said, well, not this year's, which meant I was like, ooh, maybe next year. So I'm very, very happy that her and her husband at Arena Design are working with Upper Deck. And I think you're going to see some really cool stuff come from them. I'm just excited to see them maybe bring some retro stuff back, because they have the rights to all the Fleer cards that were made. So the Skybox Rubies, the Essential Credentials, those will definitely come back while they're there. I don't know that 100%, but I think we all can agree that's their bread and butter. That set is the most popular 90s set out there. And in the PMGs, like the ones that the baseball set has, with not the green and the red, but those with the crazy circular foil, I would love to see those come back in hockey. And so, yeah, no, they didn't, but I'm really happy to see Metal Universe come back, and I fully expect them to do it again. A, and B, have the Vezina Trophy winner be in the set next year too. So, well,
I mean, you do have at least you have the ears of the right people, for that. So, yeah, I've been very impressed with it. I haven't got my hands on any retail, but from what I've seen, retail has been very good. even though it's a 5-pack box and I think it's around $45 or something. But the value that I've seen come back out of those boxes that I've seen open has been worth it. So kind of,
it's a fun set though, because it's super nostalgic. You know, we grew up with Metal Universe and those sets being just so unique at the time that they came out. You know, that's been fun. I you know, like they did, I have a Sebastian Aho base card here. I really like how they did the retro throwback to the Marvel style design, you know.
Gosh,
and
yeah.
So they look super, super cool. And I'm really excited. It makes me excited for retro sets to come back beyond Metal Universe. I think with Upper Deck having all the rights to all that, and Gene being there has the potential to be, you know, as the kids say, straight fire in the future.
Yeah. I hope Upper Deck has this, with everything that's going on collectively in the hobby and the big picture, that they see this as an opportunity, you know, to do something special as compared to everything kind of getting shoved into one lane in the other sports. So that's going to be fun to see. You may see me exclusively collecting hockey from a couple years down the road.
Hey, you know,
depending on what happens.
I'm right here to help you out anytime you're ready, man. And as everybody says, I'm a pretty bad motivator to make people spend money.
It's okay.
I'm an enabler, right? Isn't that what Will calls me?
That's all right. It makes me feel better, at least. Somebody.
Because we're both spending money, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So where does the collection go from here?
Oof, well, I will say that since selling the A-Rods starting about 3 weeks ago, and I just Sunday had my biggest chunk from one major sale go into the bank account. So it's kind of sitting there, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? But I have been able to pick off probably 10 or more watch list cards. And as you know, we all have a watch list on eBay, kind of the window shopping list, we'll call it. Like, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. So I've kind of looked at it as I'm essentially trading A-Rods for flurries, maybe like 2 or 3 A-Rods for one big flurry. And so the goal when that stuff started selling was get after certain cards before his prices go up, because they will when he makes the Hall of Fame, especially. And then, before he being in Chicago, his popularity, if he does well this year, is going to really go up.
Yeah.
So I've been able to get a lot of those. And so it's now that those are in my collection, I think I wanted to have the extra funds to maybe upgrade the apartment a little bit. I'm not going to lie, be a couple things to put in here that would improve it. But also when new releases come out, because Upper Deck's been a bit delayed lately.
Yeah.
Flurry hasn't been in too much, but like when this came up, I maybe overpaid a little bit for it, but I was aggressive with my offer, and selling the A-Rods allowed me to do that. And I was able to message the seller, 7th Street Collectibles, on Instagram. I hope he sees this. It was awesome. You know, he said, "Hey, I'm really happy this is going into your collection. It's where it belongs." And that was just awesome to get that message. And I literally like fist pumped about buying a card of a person, you know? So, but when some of his newer stuff comes out, you know, as you know, when releases come out, people group breaks and stuff, that gets flooded. You know, all the big cards pretty much show up within the first month or two. And I want to be ready to get, you know, like a seismic gold or like an orange checkerboard out of OPG Platinum, or, you know, when SB Authentic or, Stature come out, like when he has a nice card come out and it's within a reasonable range, being able to say, like, I can afford to be able to add this, as opposed to, prior to like, I'll just get this little parallel, but let that really nice card go.
Yeah.
So it's going to allow me to be a little bit more aggressive with new releases going forward, because he should be essentially in a lot the next 2 years. Everybody's going to want a Chicago card of him from the 21-22 releases, but the end of this year's releases, he's Vesna winner. So like he should be in everything, I would think.
Yeah, so. Is it Platinum that was pushed back? Is that the next release that was supposed to come out?
Yeah, it was supposed to come out 4 days ago. And so I even messaged, and they messaged me back. I was really happy. I messaged Upper Deck and whoever manages their Facebook account. I said, "Are we going to get a checklist soon?" And when he said, "We still don't have a date for it," it was a week and a half ago, I knew it was going to get pushed back. So of course it did, but I even asked him, like, can you at least like tell me if Fleury's in it? Because, you know, there's 150 slots for him to be in there. And I mean, I feel pretty good, but then I can like kind of rest easy because there's some really cool parallels coming out of there this year that they haven't done before. And he said, I don't know because I don't have the checklist, but we're glad you're excited or something like that. So it's coming out the 20th. So, you know, I've got, I imagine we'll see a checklist by the end of this week. Upper Deck's really good about putting pictures of the set on Facebook, and the checklist usually hits the day after on Cardboard Connection. So, but there's like 4 or 5 releases that were supposed to come out in October, and they just still don't have dates. And so, as Upper Deck said, they've really been having some production issues because of the company they use to make the cards is having a lot of printing delays. And so, hopefully they all come out on time. You know, I mean, they haven't even announced the cup, which usually comes out, you know, beginning of the year. So, but it's been fun to look forward to cards, you know, because collecting Tyler Glass now is always fun. But, you know, with him being hurt, there's not a lot of excitement. So with Fleury playing and being very good and having these new releases come out, it's been fun to look forward to that, you know, on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I think what I've noticed with just this conversation and same here.
You know, I mean, it would be amazing. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes.
It'd be amazing.
You know, you see, I think a lot of us, we don't particularly, when it gets kind of stale, it's when we start to kind of shift our focus a little bit. So you're not really all over the place, but you have specific areas that you're focusing on. So when one area is slow or stale, you can transition. You just made a huge transition. You know, so I mean, it's totally different from that, but we can see, you can just tell from the conversation how excited you are about the process. I don't hear a bit of regret in your voice at all. So,
no, there's not.
This works. And matter of fact, even in one of the groups, we've seen the process that you're going through has inspired and encouraged someone else to say, okay, look, I really need to relook at what I'm doing. And I'm really going to focus in on what's going to make me happy in my collection and not just being very broad. So.
Well, I mean, again, I could talk about earlier, you had a profound impact on me 2 years ago when we talked about, you know, collect what you really love. And it's so easy to get caught up in, you know, ooh, Ryan just posted this Javi Lopez, like I should go get one of A-Rod just to say that I have one in essence. And I was talking with my buddy on Instagram, Lomac, and he said something about buying a card. And I said, well, that would be like buying like that card's a statement card. And I don't think it's, to me at least, you know, like buying a card that's expensive and well liked by people, but you don't like it yourself. I didn't want to buy cards of just random players like that. And so every card that comes in a Fleury has, you know, meaning to it. It's a very meaningful purchase, whether it's a 30-cent base card that he's wearing the baby blue jersey in, which he only has, you know, maybe 25 cards like that. That's just as exciting as, you know, the card I just showed you. And every single card is meaningful, and A-Rod wasn't quite on that level. So I think that's just confirmed that I made 100% the right choice. And also selling those cards to the people that they went to, you know, if instead of selling the Quantum and the holographics, which are 2 of my all-time favorite cards, to Jeremy, I could have just thrown them up on eBay and maybe got $50 more for them at the end of the day, but it wouldn't have felt right to me. And not to say that anybody else that does that shouldn't do it. Of course, I mean, we do whatever you want, but that made it a lot easier for me to have no regrets, you know, as opposed to being like, I don't know who has these cards. Hopefully you don't see them for sale again, because then they're just going to start going around to random collectors. Like, it's kind of cool knowing where most of them are at.
Right. Well, especially with the influx of collectors that we've had over the last couple of years, you know, we've seen price roller coasters, and the fact that it's worth $50 to see it in the hands of your friend who is really happy to have that part of their collection, something they've been looking for a long time, or got rid of and had those regrets, that you can be a piece of that puzzle for them, and they're helping you out at the same time. So it's great.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I do want to say thanks again for you know, being willing to ask these questions, because there's been a lot of people reaching out and you know, a few people being like, hey, I would just love to hear the story of why. And I wondered to myself, like, is that the curiosity because maybe they're thinking of the same thing? Or is it because they're like, well, if I had that collection, there's no way I could sell it. And I think obviously we're all different as collectors, some more sentimental than others, but you look at those really serious player collectors, Schmidt Collector, for instance, he was very curious to hear the why, because I can't imagine him selling his Mike Schmidt. I mean, you see some of these cards he posts, you're like, oh man, you can tell he just loves every single one of them. And so I think I really wanted to get this out. So maybe there was people that could, like you say, evaluate or reevaluate, like, okay, am I if I'm this type of collector, am I really collecting this way? Like I know you do with Freeman and with Hobby. Like I know that those are exciting, every single card that comes in. So I'm happy to be able to get, that story out there a little bit, and also kind of continue the excitement of collecting in this way, because I feel like this is how I'm going to get the most out of the hobby, and it definitely has so far.
Yeah, I think it's exciting to be able to share that with fellow collectors, because even if it's just them reaffirming that, what I'm doing is what I enjoy doing. I'm not so set on, because I mean, we all get the opportunity to evaluate and value our collection how we want to do that. And if it is a monetary value that tends to pull you into a certain card, and you are thinking of it a couple years down the road, by all means, that's your right, and to do that. So I think it's just a part of the process of being human beings. Is it's important to stop and evaluate what you're doing, and reevaluate what you were doing, whether it's career goals, life goals, or hobby, because we can get caught in a routine. So I appreciate you sharing it and allowing me the opportunity to talk to you about it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out and sticking with us. We're going to move on to part 2, because as you can see behind Ryan, he's got some random boxes. I mean, you've
maybe
got
you can see them
a little. Yeah, you're still nice and clear, man. There's a little bit of everything back there. When we talked about doing this, I didn't want to make it all about me, because you had a pretty cool story to tell too, and you haven't really had a chance to. I mean, you've shared it with me and Tyler a little bit, and in the group a little bit, but just to kind of go into detail, because nowadays you're seeing a lot of collectors, maybe 20 years older than us, 30 years older than us, that collected like we do now, that are like, well, I'm not going to be around a whole much longer. Let me try to get this in the hands of other people who will enjoy it, maybe get a little money out of it, go on a trip or something. And you had that opportunity come up a little bit ago. Maybe what was it, like maybe 2-3 months ago? Right. Could you kind of maybe talk a little bit about, like, how did it come up? Why did you decide to go into this endeavor of sorting and selling and all this other stuff? Like, how did it all start?
So I really got lucky. I think just because of some connections that I have in the community and family, this opportunity kind of presented itself. And I think what was really nice for me in terms of realizing the role that I could play was all of the time I've spent over the last 10 years in collecting cards, getting back into collecting from modern all the way back to 90s, and the insight that I'd received from people in the group and friends that I had acquired enough base knowledge to understand, 1, what I'm looking at, 2, where the market is, and 3, where to go. So a little bit of backstory about what happened was the local card shop that was in my community back in the 90s. He opened in the early 80s. I think he even was collecting back in the 70s. He opened up in the 80s. Just was the place to be. It was called Quality Collectibles. And the guy that owned the place, his name's Glenn. And Glenn was just kind of a staple in our community for people who were into trading cards, comics for a while as well. So Glenn would move his shop around different places in the community. Just, I guess, maybe as one lease would kind of let out, he would kind of move to maybe get a little bit better location. But I remember this is the shop that I went to where my first experience in collecting started. I remember specifically buying 90s basketball, which was interesting because most of my baseball experience was picking up packs at the local small grocery store in my community, where his shop was in the county seat, the larger town in our community. But at the time, I was really into NBA basketball. It was Jordan. Of course, I was a Bulls fan, being at that age in the early 90s.
Yeah, and, most of us were, yeah.
Hated the Knicks because they were jerks. Sorry, Knicks fans, because they. But I mean, I was going through some stuff that my mom had sent to my house. It was just a box of some things, and I have my Jordan jersey from like 3rd grade. I couldn't believe it was in there. It's like this big, but it's still all the lettering's on there nice. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I still have this.
That's sweet.
But so I remember opening 94, 95 Fleer Metal. I think it was out then. I think so. I remember pulling the die cut Shaq maximum power or something like that. I can't remember what it was called, but I remember pulling it in the shop. I remember I did buy like 95, 96 Flair basketball, but I did buy some baseball as well. Flair, that was my first experience with it. So this was the place where it all kind of began for me. And we come full circle now, years after the fact, that Glenn, once he closed his shop, and he closed about around 97, 98. So unfortunately, he kind of closed right before those major products hit. So so there wasn't a lot of, I was hoping we could find some 98, 99, early 2000 stuff, because I had moved on at that point, so I didn't know how long the shop stayed open. But members of my family, my uncle and my cousin, they were part of the reason why I got into collecting too. My dad would take me to the shop, my mom would take me to the shop, but my cousin, I would visit him, and his bedroom had the chair rail on the wall, and they had built little shelvings off of it, and he just had Marino rookie and Barry Bonds rookie and Jerry Rice. He loved Marino. He loved Joe Montana. They went to the only convention that we can remember that was in Atlanta. Took his picture with Montana, got his autograph.
That's pretty cool.
Got Marino to autograph a game-worn shoe, and just stuff like that. So they were really big into collecting and loved it. And he calls me one day and he's like, "Hey, man, we have an opportunity to buy Glenn's stuff." And I'm like, "Glenn who?" And he's like, "The guy that on Quality Collectible." And I'm like, "Wait a minute." He still had it. So all of this material went into storage about 97, 98 in a house in downtown. And it's been sitting there ever since. They said when they went in, I didn't get the experience to go and pick up the collection, but he said when they went in, it was just like it had not been touched since then. Like it was a time capsule. So needless to say, there was some buildup of dust in some of the areas, but so they work out a deal with him. They had an opportunity because of what they do business wise in our community. They were able to help him out with some purchases on some things moving, because he was getting ready to sell the house. So in return, he kind of gave them a good deal on what was there. Now there were some things that they couldn't touch. There were some items that he was going to keep. He was going to pass down to his family, but he was like, "For this price, you can take all this." So my cousin's initial goal with it was he's a huge Jordan collector. Had always been a big Jordan collector long before the boom and the documentary came out. So his thought was, we're sitting in a cusp of, there could be some 80s Jordan stuff here. We might be on the verge of some Kobe stuff too. So he loves basketball collecting. And so that was kind of their thought process was, we're going to get this collection. We're going to try to find what we want to keep, but we want to move the rest of it. So they approached me and was like, "Look, you spend a lot of time in social media. You spend a lot of time on eBay. You know, when we talk about cards, and there's a lot of people who know a lot more about cards than I do, but a lot of those people are like us. They kind of eat, breathe, sleep. We study, we research. Part of what I like about card collecting is just the history of it. It's just understanding, knowing those sets." And my wife says, I probably have more useless information in my mind.
Don't all guys have more useless information in their mind?
Of course.
Isn't that how it is?
Of course. By the way, she's told me, I've talked about, display and collection stuff. And she's like, there's that little there's that little cove in our room that you could put something there. And I'm like, really? You want them in our bedroom? So yeah, I don't care. So
there you
got
go,
the green
man.
light on that.
Yeah,
But
you married a winner.
yeah.
That's perfect.
All of the rooms down here are already occupied with bodies, so I don't have a man cave space to set it up.
A few more
so
years from now, right? Once you get some kids off of college, that's as soon as your first kid goes, you're like, all right, it's happening.
Yeah. So they buy this collection, and I'm not really aware of it. He kind of tells me one day, he's like, you need to come to my house. So I go visit. We go in his basement's finished, and we go in his basement, and it's just boxes everywhere.
How many? How many boxes on if you were to estimate? I can make an estimate.
At least in terms of like 3-row boxes or 4-row boxes, at least 40 of those. And he didn't get everything. It's about to get loud behind me.
Yeah.
Here
it comes.
So at least 30,
wow.
4 or 5-row boxes. But then there were just totes full of 1,000 count boxes or 100 count boxes. I didn't even touch this piece of it because I need some more experience, but we have 5 or 6 comic book boxes, just the big ones, mostly 80s and 90s comics. But there's no telling what else is in there. Beckett's still in the box and they haven't been taken out yet. Jordan Beckett's, Griffey Beckett's, Tough Stuffs. Right. It was just crazy to see all this stuff. So it was just every time I picked up something, it was just something new, something different. Lots of unopened wax, tons of unopened wax. Wish there was more baseball, but it turns out that there's more basketball. But basketball at that time, in that era, from 90 to 95, 96, definitely sells way better wax-wise. So that was the benefit on that end. But it's just things that I had never imagined. Like it's that collection, that find that you see people who's like, oh, I bought this collection. They're loading down their minivan or their truck. Yep. And you're like, wow, I wish I could find something like that. This was
something Tanner's done about 50 times by now, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. he's had so much fun doing that. That's great.
But yeah, it's just crazy. And I mean, autographed baseballs, there's a ton of in-person autographs. I'll share this with you because I think this is important. I'm glad I found this, and this is something that I want to get back to him, and see how well it'll focus. But so this is Glenn. Right there on the the other side, right here. Okay. And then do you know who that is?
Not Johnny Bench, is it? Who is that?
Not Johnny Bench, an Oriole.
Oh, Frank Robinson.
Brooks Robinson.
Oh, Frank Robinson went with me.
So okay. This was in a binder, and it's dated February 22nd of 83. I would have been 1 year old. So, but this is Glenn. He was with Brooks Robinson. He went to a lot of shows all over the country. Did a lot of in-person signings with guys. Of course, now this is pre, PSA. Era, so people weren't looking for certified autographs, but I mean, he just had that connection with these people. He'd go to those shows. I mean, these are all in-person autographs, and I think it's awesome that this picture kind of verifies that these are legit to me.
Right.
But just stuff like that. I mean, it was just incredible. Boxes of hockey, basketball, baseball, football. 90s football. So it ranges from anywhere from 1952 to about 95 in different sports.
Okay. So you mean you've painted the picture for everybody, and everybody that's still here listening and people who are going to listen later, like just imagine how overwhelming that would be to just have all of that there. I mean, just to look at it, first of all, because, as kids, we remember going to those card shops and seeing boxes and just being like, and then of course mom's like, all right, you got 30 minutes. It's like, oh man, I could just sit in here for hours, man. And even now as an adult, you can, when you find those boxes. Tyler and
I was just pinballing all over his basement. It was, I couldn't stay in one box. It was just like being a kid again.
It was.
And you just didn't know what the next box. I mean, you open that next box and you're like, oh man, what is going to be in this box?
Right.
You know,
Right.
I'm hoping like I open and there's just like a whole set of PMGs just sitting.
Yeah, right. It could have been. I mean, you never knew, right? But I think another thing is, anybody that has the opportunity to do this, that buys it, most of us would buy something like that with the intent of the enjoyment and nostalgia of going through it again, of going through the whole thing, but also deciding like, okay, can I put this in the hands of people who are going to really, really love it? And so moving on from now, you're in the basement looking at it. You two or you three, I can't remember if it was you and two other people that bought into it, or
three of us.
Three of us. You three got together and decided to do what from that point?
So my cousin had it a couple of weeks. He and my uncle are pretty much I guess you would say, are the investors. They're the ones that made the purchase, but they asked me to come in because they knew, one, how much I love collecting, and I probably would have more time to manage it. So the deal, and they know that he told my cousin told my uncle, he's like, look, there's one person that I know that understands how to put this together, would know where to go to sell it, and I think that we need to have Ryan involved in this. So the deal we made was, they kind of did the financial investing side of it, and they were going, they said, oh, look, well, we want to make sure that it's worth your time. So we're going to cut you in on this deal. We want to use your understanding, your knowledge, and if you would be willing to kind of manage the movement of these cards. So that's kind of that's why I'm saying I'm really lucky. I get the advantage of getting to get to look through a hobby shop collection, without having to make that huge personal investment financially. But I have a very important role in making good financial decisions about how to move this product, because I look at it as like, hey, you've given me your funds to invest. I want to make sure I give you a return on investment, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we can do it in a way where we target groups of people who are looking for specific cards or items or types of cards, so they can be happy too. And I think it's a little harder to do with such a big collection, because some things just, you have to get them on the right platform to move them. But but the process it went from being very overwhelming to, okay, I've got to look at this. It's the whole elephant theory of, we've got this big elephant. You can't eat an elephant in one bite. You've got to take it a bite at a time. So the first thing I had to do was come up with a game plan. Like, how do I want to attack this? And number one was, yes, exactly. That's what we want to do. And if I had to get some of it here, I had to first of all tell my wife I'm bringing a buttload of cards to our house. She's like, we already have a buttload of cards in our house.
That's right.
I said, no, these are going to be leaving too. And my perspective with this was, I want to make the best of this opportunity financially for me, for my family. So I'm committed to whatever funds that I make off of this. It's going towards my family. It's not going towards more cards.
Right.
Of course, I mean, my wife's like, buy a couple cards with it. If you're going to do all this. And I'm like, yeah, I do. But I feel like this is an opportunity for me to be able to I spent all this time investing in cards myself, investing time and our money into something I enjoy doing. This is a chance for me to be able to get that experience. I get to look at a ton of cards. But at the same time, I can, I want it to go back into us as a family, not just me and what I do.
Well, you talk about your family too being involved, and I know that there was times where you've involved your kids in helping you sort through it too. I mean, have they enjoyed the experience? Before we get to the actual movement of the cards, like, have they really enjoyed having that feeling that you would have had at their age, looking at some of those cards?
Yeah, I don't think they understand right now how big of a deal it is in terms of this hobby and what they're got to put their hands on. But it has opened their eyes to see, okay, wow, there's a lot more out there than we knew. This older stuff. they've had a blast being involved with the sorting process, just seeing cards they've never seen.
Right.
There was the first part of the process was cleaning, because not all of them are in great shape because maybe the box didn't have a lid on it when it's set in the house. So maybe the tops of the cards collected dust through the top loaders or something. So that was we vacuumed, literally vacuumed like the top of the at an angle, so we wouldn't suck the cards out.
Right.
But we had to do some cleaning on some things first. But my 8-year-old, he had a rag, and I would take a slightly dampened rag to kind of clean up some of the sealed boxes to check them, and he would dry them off. But we would come home from school and he would be like, "Okay, do we have anything we need to clean up today?" He was excited.
That's great.
Of course, his deal was, so what about that box of Ninja Turtle cards? I'm like, well, you help me clean these up, they're yours. So he kind of got a little bit of, okay, a little bit of work to earn something. So we're teaching a little bit of a life lesson there. But that was something that my cousin that has involved me in this has always been really good to me. He's about 5 years older than me, and he's an entrepreneur. He runs a car business. He sells Toyota trucks, but we're both avid Alabama fans, Alabama football fans, and he created a business where we made these stupid hats at one time, and he got a license to sell them, and we would set up on Saturdays in Tuscaloosa and sell these dumb hats. We actually had a lawsuit against us because of collegiate licensing.
Really?
Wow. But we weren't really breaking the licensing laws. They wanted to say that we couldn't put the elephant on the hat. We actually sold Auburn stuff too. So the lawyer presented to the NCAA that the NCAA doesn't have copyrights on the African elephant. So that kind of died down. But anyway, that's kind of a side note.
Wow. That's story for another day.
Yeah. But he's always involved me in a lot of things. So he was like, look, if you see something you want, find any Javi Lopez cards, there's something the kids want, let them have it. There's plenty of stuff there to go around. And his point was, I'm not so worried about really making a profit. I'm not even worried about making the money back as much as I know you'll enjoy doing this, and I know you'll do it right. So have fun. That was his point. So it's made it a lot easier on me to manage it because I don't feel this pressure of mine. But yeah, the kids have loved it, and so they've been able to share in the process so far and sorting, and we still have a ton of sorting to do. And I don't even have everything here yet.
How much of it have you gone through so far? Like 2/3 probably?
Yeah, probably 2/3 of it. He's gone through a lot of it at his house too. He was kind of looking for some stuff for his personal collection, but for the, he really is like, just take it all. He's like, I want it out of here. He had some work he had to do in his basement too. So he was like, I need it out of here anyway. So,
well, because you guys, he and you combined have gone through most of it. I am really curious. I think a lot of us that are here listening are, can you name like 3 to 5 of the more like substantial finds that you both have had?
Yeah. I would love to be able to say I found, 98 PMGs or essential credential cards but 97 is about the cutoff for most of it. Really, probably 96. So there's a lot of pinnacle stuff in there from that era, but the better cards are not necessarily from, what we would necessarily be looking for in the 90s group. But really, I guess some of the most interesting finds are things like, just this, I believe it's 1948. So it's a 1948. See if I can get it to focus.
Yeah, I don't know if it will. Oh, there it is. Oh, wow. Look at that.
So a 1948 Eno Slaughter rookie, Bowman rookie. That's his autograph. I mean, that's
beautiful autograph.
So there you go. So I mean, things like this, like this is a card that, and I'm thinking, well, okay, how legit is this? Anybody could fake an autograph, but I think about the era in which this guy's shop was open, And why would you want to do that? I mean, he has evidence that he traveled, but and then there's more evidence of it. Here's another Slaughter Bowman auto, hand signed. So there's things like that. I mean, he has 3 or 4 of those, and then a card that just blew my mind. If I can find it. Like, he had a binder of just in-person autographs of Hall of Fame guys. Like, here's a Walt Dropo card.
That's so cool. I love that it's artistic and it's a card. Like, so sweet.
Yeah. And this is one of my favorites. And he went to a signing with Dropo because he signed a ton of stuff for him.
That's so cool.
And these are just really cool. These are the Red Man tobacco cards. So that's just some of the older stuff. He's Johnny Mize autograph. Trying to see if I could find it. I know
Ray is quite enthused about those autographs. So I know you have one person. There's somebody who might getting the cards into collectors, like Unier said. Right cards to the right collectors.
That was one reason why I was thankful that you were going to give me the opportunity to do this, because I think there's people that watch this podcast that would be interested in some of this and getting it to the right people.
Right.
So
definitely. Oh, wow. Johnny Mize,
this card's in really good shape too. So one thing I thought about doing, because I feel that these cards are legit. The ones I've looked at and checked the autos, they look dead on. I don't know if I'm selling to people that are in the group or may connect to the cards. They may be comfortable with buying them, but I thought about getting authentication done on some of them.
Right. You and I talked about that a little bit. Right, like my friend Jimmy, who's a hockey collector, sends a lot of those in-persons out just to get them authenticated, not graded.
Yeah,
and so might be something to look into.
That's definitely something that I'm considering, because there's just so many of these. Like, there's 3 or 4 of these, just Eric Davis autos.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
I mean, things like that. Like, there's probably over 200 in-person autographs, and there's probably 40 Brooks Robinson autos. You got Orlando Cepeda. Get it to focus.
There it is. Nice.
Cepeda. Bob Feller.
Wow. So would you say that the in-person autographs are... There's Bob Gibson.
Bob Gibson.
Were the best part of it. I mean, how has the sealed wax been? Because me, you and Tyler, as we were talking, we're like, please let there be like a hockey box or a Pacific box in there, and neither have really been in there. It's been more of the basketball. Go for it. Like, what
there was
what
a
kind
Pacific.
Of
There was a Pacific basketball box, but I think it was collegiate basketball. Which was interesting. Definitely, I will do that.
Yeah, awesome, Ray. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
man. Great.
Yeah, I've only thrown these up, I think, maybe once, and the reason I haven't even pursued selling those yet was I was trying to decide what route I wanted to go. But once I had got the pieces of the collection here that I had got cleaned up, I thought, like, there's got to be a way I do this systematically, to keep up with A, what I'm selling, B, what's going to be easiest, because selling individual cards or lots of cards can be a little more difficult. So I started with the wax. So some of the things that came out of it were things like 90 Fleer basketball boxes. We had 4 of these, I believe, and I've already sold 3 of them. So this is the last one that I have of that. But things like that, like this is 93, 94, I think. Yeah, 93, 94 Upper Deck.
Right. Look at that, man.
So Series 2 basketball. So, and this one, these are all listed. I tried to sell them in groups first. That was my first thought, was
avoid the eBay fees, man.
Which I've come to find out they're not great, but they're not near as bad as it used to be when it was eBay on top of PayPal.
Right.
And what I was doing was I was pricing boxes. I would look at eBay costs. I'd see what they sold for. I would figure out the fee rates, and then I would try to sell those boxes to try to get them into collectors' hands at a fair price. Where if they were to go onto eBay and buy the box, they would probably get a better price buying from me, but I would probably still net the same thing if I'd sold it on eBay.
Right.
So I wasn't trying to just, I wanted to, and this is something that kind of goes back to what my cousin has done for years. And he and my uncle both, they sell cars, and the idea about car salesmen, they're greasy. So, but they've always, their idea was to stay in business and to have repeat customers. And what you do is make a little, sell a lot, make people happy. You can make a little bit and you can sustain your business. And so that's kind of the approach we take with this is, I'm not trying to sell a box for double what it's really worth, or I'm not going to really argue with somebody over $15-$20 on an item if we can still make a good profit off of it and they get what they want. So, that's a couple of the things, there was some 93, 94 Skybox basketball.
Awesome.
Actually sold the Series 2 earlier today. Had a guy from Australia ask me if I would ship international. But basketball is so hot. I mean, so
well, it's not easy to get for them to get cards over there, so they've really got to go through a lot just to get. Yeah. I mean, I've had the chance to buy cards from a lot of people in Europe, hockey cards, and obviously Canada, but it's hard for them to get cards over there. So that's awesome that you sold it.
Well, and I actually had an offer on the box. So I told him, I can't go in and update the listing right now because I didn't have international shipping on it. So I was like, I have an offer on it right now. I countered offered back. And I was like, I don't think they're going to take it because you do get a lot of lowball offers early on. Of course.
That's why I set a minimum. So I just don't even see them. I never list stuff, man.
So I just, which they weren't really that lowball. I mean, they might have been $30 or $40 under the box.
I mean, but there's a certain point, right, where you kind of find that middle ground.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I did and I think most of us do this. I looked at what they were selling for on average. I kind of threw out the ones that were super way over what they would have gone for. A box that's selling for $95. There's some that sold for $140. Okay, that's just kind of an outlier. I can tell you his name.
And then you've heard of, you've tried this place too, right?
Yeah, I actually have the app. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't sold anything in there, but
it's decent.
But then we run into stuff like this. I mean, and Matt,
man,
you would not believe the market for Marvel's trading cards.
It's getting pretty intense. Like their Jambalaya. I saw what a Jambalaya sold for of Spider-Man. I was like, whoa.
It's insane. It's insane. I sold a sealed box of this for like $130.
That's incredible. Are people buying them and grading those? Are there some really tough cards in there? Is that why?
Some are set builders. There's a hollow. There's some this is the masterpiece set. So if you know anything about the Marvel's masterpiece sets, they're full art cards. There's some parallels in them. But what was really cool is I've got to experience learning a lot more about trading cards that are way outside of my genre.
Right. I bet.
And I opened a pack of these because one thing that I decided to do, because of this was a lot of old wax, I didn't want to sell. I didn't feel comfortable selling this to people and it being bricked and in bad shape.
Stuck together.
I didn't want if you don't disclose it up front, what's going on, it's going to bite you on the backside anyway. So there was one guy that bought $150 worth of 93 Marvel's Universe. It wasn't the masterpiece. And he was like, I just don't know about these other cards because I know they can brick. I sold a box and they were bricked. I said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't I open a pack? I can do it live or I can record it and send it to you. And you can actually see. So we did it. They did have a little bit of stick, but he said, hey man, because you did that. And I even cut the price. It's like, hey, look, let's do $15 less for the lot. So instead of not having to sell to that guy, I was able to make about $170 sale. And instead of quaffling over $20 packs that he wanted to add on to it.
That's cool.
So that worked out. So like these, I actually opened a pack. It's got sample open sample on it. So I show those because I want buyers to understand. One, we have a lot of new buyers in that are out there, but these are just really cool cards. Let's see here. These are really awesome looking.
A Hulk 2099. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, people love this stuff, and I get it. That's what they love to do. But
well, especially with Marvel being at like the peak of interest right now, and just are in America or all over the world, like Marvel, they've killed it with all their movies and TV series. So it's no surprise in essence to, I guess, hear that it's that popular.
Yeah. And I think it's really stayed that way from people I've talked to. There's always been that cult following. You have your DC people, your Marvel people. The movies have definitely brought in other people, kind of like the pandemic brought in other people into sports cards.
Definitely.
But they've always collected. You see sets that go. Thank you. I appreciate it. That I think that ties in though to what Matt and I've been talking about all night. Is just if you love this hobby, if it's not it's money is a piece of it, but trying to do right by people, I think that's just with any model of business. You will sustain if you do it the right way. Sure, you'll take some licks, but those will be
always
few and far between, and I've only ever had one person question an eBay sale with me. I sold what was it? It was a Bowman card of Trey Turner, and it was an insert Bowman, like out of 99. It's a really nice card. I think the guy bought it for like $25.
Okay.
He got it, and he said, well, you didn't disclose in the description that this was a mini. And it was a miniature card, Farm's Finest card. And you could tell in the picture that it was way small on the top loader. Like it was obvious it was small. But it was one of the first cards I'd ever sold on eBay. And I said, I tell you what, you're right. I didn't. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I'll tell you what, I'll refund you the whole thing. It's not worth what it could do to me down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
So the guy he left a great feedback, and he's bought 5 or 6 other items from me since.
There you go. So it kind of continued. Yeah, for sure.
So that's the kind. So I appreciate. Was that Ray?
It was Ray that said that. Yeah.
Thanks, Ray. I do appreciate that. But I've learned that. I've learned that with working. I work in education, but we treat it the same way with students. But anyway, I'll digress. So things like these basketball boxes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that as a kid you dream of finding. Yeah, you're right, Ray. I mean, it's like Frank Thomas rookie card, right?
Yeah.
No name, but it's not just one.
That's pretty sweet, man. Like back when we were kids, that would have been like
just one stack.
Yeah.
But there's some, I've gone through them, and what I've tried to do is I've gone through them. I've tried to find ones that look really good, and either have bad corners or whatever. I've tried to separate them, and I've tried to sell them that way. Like, hey, look, this one has a rough surface, or this one has a corner. These are $6 a piece. Not those, but
right.
Or versus, like, for example, like these. I mean,
look at all those Jeters. Wow.
But some of these, if you look at them close, there's surface wrinkles, not because they've been damaged. They've been in top loaders. These top loaders are not what they came in. These top loaders were yellow. So I bumped them over into something else because obviously they're not going to sell. But I mean,
you saved them all for Tyler, right?
Exactly. I do. I actually have them in a shoebox for him. So like just tons of Jeters, man. It's crazy.
That's crazy, dude.
No massive like big 90s cards, but lots of
slow and steady, just finding important card after important card and boxes and whatnot.
But then you run into football,
The Neon Dion, or is that Emmett?
That's Emmett
Smith. That's awesome.
Yeah. So in football, these aren't museum collections; these are trophy collections.
There you go, man. Ray is helping out your reputation even more. Well, but hey, before we get, I'll go for it.
I was going to say we will get together and figure something out for you, man.
Right. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, Ray. I mean, give him a shout out too. He was really, really helpful when I was buying Ichiro cards, and he was very, intentional with his information that he gave me, and that's what's awesome about this community. I mean, there's probably been some people that you've gone to for advice. I know you've kind of asked me and Tyler, and I'm sure you've asked other people, bounced like, okay,
of course,
like, what are these worth? What should I do here? Like, it's always nice to get a second opinion from people who, whose opinions you value a lot. And I, on Instagram, I've had the fortunate pleasure of having people to kind of say, is this price good? What would you do for this card and whatnot? But as we're like wrapping up this discussion about that collection and your ongoing journey with that, I figured you could give some advice to people who may run into that opportunity in the future, because I think there will probably be one or more of our listeners on this YouTube channel that have this opportunity come up when somebody is going to sell a collection. And, what are, 1 to 3 pieces of advice that you would give to those who are presented with this opportunity to buy a big collection and then, to try to, make a little bit of money for their families or their hobby or whatever?
Yeah. Well, one piece, it's kind of easy for me to say because I don't have the financial investment. I feel like I have the fiscal responsibility to manage it. So that to me is a little more pressure. But even if you do make that kind of investment, one, don't be in a hurry.
That's a good one.
Even if once you've made the purchase, don't be in a hurry. I know the market is going to be all over the place. There's some boxes, if you have wax, they're going to sell really well for a week or two based off what may be going on in the hobby. They may drop back down. Don't worry about hitting the peak with everything. So one, don't be in a hurry to move it all quickly. Be patient.
Okay.
That's key, because I thought, man, I listed some stuff thinking, man, this is going to be gone instantly. And there's some things that haven't moved very quickly. So that would be 1. 2 would be get organized. You really got to get organized. If you're not good at organizing, find someone who is and let them
probably
help you.
If you have a wife at home, that would probably be helpful. They're much more organized typically.
I mean, it took me and my sons, and even after they went to bed, I would stay up. I have 200-300 packs of loose packs because at the shop, he would have loose packs just out to buy too. So the boxes got tossed, but he put those packs in some 3-row boxes. So they needed cleaned up. I was not going to list. I mean, every one of these packs was hand wiped, cleaned. I checked the seal. I checked if they were stuck. I made notes. I took, I didn't bring it in here, but I took painter's tape. I put the packs that were the same. I put them in about 10 to 12 stacks. I lightly put some painter's tape on them to hold them together as a group. So they come right off real easy. And I made notes on the tape before I stuck it on the packs. Like, hey, there's X number of packs. This is the year.
Right.
There was a little bit of bricking on the corner or sticking. So when I get ready to list it, I can tell potential buyers exactly what's going on with the product.
That's
so
awesome.
Get organized. It's a whole lot easier to pull something, list it, put it back. It sells. You know where it's at. You can pack it and ship it pretty quick. So get organized. Be patient. Be organized. And be fair. Be truthful and be fair. If you can make $80, yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I think that might be the most important, because everybody is seeing the hobby at this peak. I mean, maybe not the craze peak that it was at 6 months ago, but it's still at a peak as compared to 3-4 years ago. And you go into it thinking like, I'm going to get the most anybody's going to get for this box. That's a very unrealistic expectation to set for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, this box in August sold between $125 and $140. Today it's not doing that. Maybe some are still selling about 100, but my thought process was, okay, I've got 4 boxes. If I can average out a pretty decent sale, I mean, I'm probably averaging about $90 a box on those. But one box sold for the list price. other boxes I took offers on. One of the box had writing from the shop on it, like he had $44 for the box and so much for the packs. So I knew like that one I knew was going to get probably lower offers, and I got a fair offer on it, and I accepted that. So, you know, you try to be fair with people. If you know the hobby, one of the best ways to get the prices back in line is for the people that know it to get them back in line, I think.
Right.
Because that you'll see that trend happen, and you can make a lot of money if you want to, but if you don't do a good job of disclosing possible issues, you're going to have a lot of headaches with it too. So I'm trying to avoid the headaches up front. There's some packs I won't sell. And I've told my cousin, I said, there's stuff here that we just don't need to sell. It's not fair for what it's going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in the freezer, and we'll do a video, and we'll bust them open. It's some Fleer Ultra basketball that's
going to be fun.
One end of the pack is just bricked. I opened one pack just to see, and I'm like, look, somebody will be very disappointed with this. So, I mean, that's what we're going to do with it. We're going to see if we can salvage the inserts in the middle and go from there. But the best, I will say this: we did get lucky. We had a 90, I think it's 93, 94 Fleer Ultra Series 2 box. I think it's a Series 2 box of basketball, which has the Court Kings cards in it. That Court King Jordan is a really high dollar card on its own, and those boxes were selling. That box did well. It sold for $430. So
that's impressive. Hopefully, the people that are getting those too have the chance to experience pulling one of those cards out of there, and the fact that you're unearthing this collection to all these people, and hopefully their kids are involved too in some of these instances, to go into collectors' hands who are going to love them like we do our cards. I mean, I think in essence, it's kind of the same thing that we've been talking about all episode, and I think it's great too that you have that goal of saying, I'm going to use these funds to help our family, but then your wife is like, hey, get a couple for yourself too, and bouncing from, we're using that to springboard us to the end of our episode here. I thought we would have a little showcase. I've got a few out that have certainly been fun to grab, and I know you've been having some fun, even though you've been really busy collecting, or not collecting, but sorting all this to show us some what do we say, some spoils of your victories of selling the cards.
There's a ton of cards. Look, I'm very proud of myself. The willpower to not just shred through packs, sitting there going,
"Oh man, no joke.
This one feels a little. Let me check this pack." I mean, I did open a box of. It was already kind of open. The 92 draft, because I wanted to pull a Jeter.
Ah, nice.
So,
awesome.
But this didn't even come out of that box. After I opened that box, I found another box that had 4 or 5 of those in it. So,
really?
And the ones that I pulled had a little bit of sticking. These are some that have been pulled. Yeah, that's for real. She's pretty cool about it. She never really questions anything. She lets me enjoy it. So,
good deal. Well, thanks again, Ryan, for telling us that experience.
Yeah.
I think it would be fun for your channel's done really well, not just because of the pro mold video, which I've watched probably 10 times now, which has been great. But you do a really good job with the explanations of the cards in your video, and good lighting and whatnot. It'd be really fun if I could motivate you to, rather than motivate you to spend money, but motivate you to kind of do like a little wrap up, like 15, 20 minutes of just this whole experience. I know some people, some of your viewers might not come over and see this episode necessarily, so I think it would be fun to kind of hear a summary, and then also open up a couple packs or a box or something for us on there. Would be really cool to see.
I'd love it. I'm
unique opportunity for you.
Yeah.
Well, there's just not enough time in the day, right? Like, I think that's part of it. But
it's been tough. I mean, nobody wants to know everything that's going on, but after work, the kids are all involved in a sport, so we're pretty busy with that. And by the time the weekend gets here, it's kind of still playing. But I've got to sit down, just like with anything else. You've got to block off time to do this kind of things, right. And I want to get the kids involved in it too. So
that's awesome.
I think it would be a great series to be able to share with people. Like, hey, here's the process we're going through with this.
Oh, for sure.
So,
there's a little bit of motivation from me. I know Ray would certainly be into that too, and a few others. But let's bounce back and forth and show a few cards off. What have you had coming in lately that you'd like to maybe start? We'll just go one at a time. If that's cool with you.
That's work. I'll show you this first, and then you can go to one. These I did open a few packs of basketball that were kind of hanging out. I couldn't help it.
Don't blame me.
Of course,
at all, dude.
you know, if you were a kid and you opened these, you would be super happy. So I did get to pull a Jordan.
Oh, the nostalgia with those, man.
Yeah,
look at that.
The Jordan, and then I pulled that Jordan as well.
Oh, that's so
just
cool.
out of a loose pack of collector. And then, of course, I'd never seen this card, a Shaq Hallmark Gold Crown card.
Is that desirable by anybody? Like, do people?
I don't know. I haven't even looked.
That's amazing, man.
I was a Pippen collector as a kid because I couldn't afford Jordan, but I could afford Pippen. So,
can you show that Pippen again? Is that like kind of like done on artistically in essence, rather than just like being an actual photo of him?
Yeah, it's actually kind of artwork. So this is cool. From 90. So this 92-93 set is the Shaq rookie set.
Okay.
So he was in Series 2, and I can't remember if this is a Series 2 pack or not, but just Pippen.
That's awesome, man. That must have been so much fun because I remember seeing a lot of those cards.
Because I just grabbed like 3 random packs, and that was what came out. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Cool, man. That's so cool. Well, I got to give a shout out to my dad. He had an album come out a few days ago, about a little over a week ago. And one of the songs in that album is named after kind of our reinvigorated love for hockey. And I showed him this card right here. I think you know where this is going, but I showed him this card right here. This Marc-Andre Fleury Flower in the Desert inscription. And he loved it so much he called he titled one of the songs Flower in the Desert. And he kind of asked me, like, what are some things you'd like to see me try in my my new album? And I kind of gave him some ideas, and it's definitely got his flavor to it, but it's probably the most time-consuming song he's ever done. And so I'm starting, even though the Essential Credentials is still going to happen from time to time, maybe not as often, but it still will happen, once or twice a month. I want to open my hockey podcast. I want to open it with like an intro type deal every episode, and I'll use that song to open it. So
that's awesome,
Flower in the Desert. It's track number 3. It's a good one. It's really, really good.
That is awesome.
I got that a while ago, but I definitely wanted to show that's one of my favorite cards in my collection, just because that connection with my dad. Yeah,
the fact that a card, and that's the thing about it, is like something that you do that you enjoy, that you still already had a connection with your dad, inspired him to write a song that now full circle you can use in videos connected to your flower collection.
That's right, man. That's going to be fun.
It's awesome.
Cool, dude. Yeah, thanks. Definitely had to show that one off.
Yeah, man. So this second card, this is kind of what I've been working on for a while. I'd kind of gotten to the point where I was afraid a card was going to be too expensive in the set. And I was waiting out auction after auction until I got a good shot. And so I was able to pick up this Josh Jacobs rookie ticket auto red parallel out of the first off the line set.
Panini still does have some good shine on their cards, man. I got to give them credit where it's due.
I mean, this is the set that it's been around since playoff had it back in the early 90s. Alabama's been fortunate to have so many guys go in the draft these past few years. Matter of fact, it's been a little difficult because it's more cards I got to find, but but the Jacobs has been a card I've been after for a while. And just the fact that I was able to get that card at a great price, I stole that card on an auction. It was actually one of those we don't name on eBay sellers that I actually got a really good deal on it.
Really? Look at that.
Yeah. So I was really excited to get that card because I'm down to like maybe 12 cards in that set, and Tua and Jalen are the two that I probably will never buy at this point because they're astronomically expensive compared. Yeah. I'm sure Mac Jones will be super expensive coming out too, but that set has been fun for me to collect.
You've been having a set that's just continually growing, kind of like the Young Guns goalie set. Yeah. That's fun to just kind of add to every year, every release.
That's a great comparison. That's kind of what I looked at it like when you were talking about. I was like, that reminds me of my contender set because my very first card in that set is they do the contenders rookie autos. And then if the players go to the rookie roundup, they sign their on card autos. So the guys that are actually at that rookie signing, they're on card, but the other guys are stickers. But it started with the Brady's, the 2000 set started with the autographs and moved on from there. But pre 2000, the first contenders were actually inserts in the playoff set. So you had playoff contenders and the contenders. So they have this the chrome, what do they call it? Chrome tech something technology. I can't remember what they call it. It's on the back of the card. Yeah, but it's a chromium look.
Well, I know they do like an optic too. That's pretty cool. But I will say, I see some scans a while when we had our little get excited about select baseball release. That Tyler Glasnow's contenders base card parallels, man, some of those look incredible.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, this technology it's not like it on any other card. And so I don't blame you for going after. They're really clean looking cards, and of course that's one of Brady's most desired rookies as well. So cool. Yeah, it's been fun to follow your set progress on that. I know you just showed off 4 of them the other day in the group. So that was pretty cool.
I got a Freeman that's not here yet, so
I know. I was hoping to see. Yeah, I was hoping to see. I really do want to see that too, because we talked about nostalgia. Next time you're on, we'll have to talk about that. Maybe that set in more detail, because I like that. If it's the one I'm thinking of, I like that they're continuing to bring the nostalgia. And I already showed the platinum portrait, so I can't use that as a springboard. But for me, when I think of 90s cards and A-Rod, I do like finding flurries that remind me of that nostalgia, of that 90s look. And I think acetate cards are like something that started in the 90s with the EX 2001 and the EX Century, and those just acetate base cards. And one of my biggest wants, and if Name is still here, he sent me a message, you got to get one of these flurries. And it's a pretty tough card, because it was what do you call it? Like a sneak release. Like they didn't mention it on the checklist, but they put it in there. Stealth. There it is. Thank you. It's the acetate retro Young Guns.
Gosh.
And it's got, I know I don't have my light on, but it's got some really nice holofoil on the bottom. And this is a really cool picture of Flower as a rookie, because he's got that number on his throat protector. And he only did that his rookie year. And he's also got the Coho pads, which he quit wearing after his first year in the league too. So after the lockout was done, he went to the yellow Reebok pads for a couple of years. And then his teammates gave him a hard time about those. And he also talked to somebody who said like a physical therapist or something. I don't know. He had a conversation like, the players can see the pads, so they're not going to aim for him as much. So he just like, all right, I guess I'm wearing white. But funny to think that now he won the Vesna with these dark gold pads. So I think the skill outweighs the pads. But yeah, anyway, that was the most I had ever spent on a card at that point by $1, which is kind of funny. I won it for my max bid, and all the other ones have sold for more than that since then. So I feel like you kind of got it at auction. I feel really, really fortunate that it came in, and it's definitely one of my non-autograph favorites.
Was that stealthed into Series 2, Series 1? Yeah,
into Series 2.
I think I saw a video of a guy pull one, and I might have screenshotted, and I think I sent it to you. I don't remember.
You did.
But I was like, oh my gosh, where's these going to come from? You got to find one of these.
It's funny. I just saw somebody who joined a group break of that for like $20, got the Penguin spot, and he got one of those out of his group break. And, just crazy. But, when they were first coming out, they are very, very popular amongst collectors. There's a few set collectors. Oh, there he is. Yes, it is. Thanks again for the motivation, my friend. The acetate guy and acetate girl on Instagram both collect the acetate Young Guns, which are they release those in SP Authentic, I believe, and they're super expensive. Like the Kaprizov is going to be unreal when it hits the market. But I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to get one because they were selling for, $900, $800, $750, $1,000. I'm like, okay, well, unfortunately, I'm just going to have to put it out of my mind. And I'd sold a couple of A-Rods right before school year ended, and it just ended up working out perfectly. But $1.99 more than I'd spent on a card, and it ended up working out for me. So
beautiful card though, man.
Yeah, thanks, dude. It's definitely really unique, and again, it has that '90s vibe to it, and I like that I can get hockey cards that aren't that don't feature an autograph and or game used piece to make it special. You know? So that's pretty sweet. Any others in front of you?
Yeah, I had another one. I'm kind of sticking with the same theme because this was it's really hard to find. I like trying to get the parallels of these because you probably had some experience with it already with Tyler Glasnow with the contender stuff. They do a rookie. So with football, it's a rookie ticket, but then they also do, a playoff ticket card. Right. So it's a silver foil finish, and it's numbered, different numberings, and then they have a championship ticket, and of course Super Bowl tickets, the 1-on-1. So it's kind of hard to find, but this is the Jerry Jeudy, and it's just the base rookie ticket. But I like pulling these because the other ones are so expensive, but they're so clean on the white, and he barely on the card with that signature. But these are, it's an on card signature, but it's just so clean. I think it's his variation image in this one. So
so it's more short printed than the other base card autograph.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I've been able to pick up his Henry Ruggs. Those were two big ones from last year. There were 10 guys that were in the previous draft, I think it's the 2021. There's like 10 cards.
Alabama has a lot of guys get drafted every year. They don't have an incredible team and then only have a few guys go out. They do really well in the draft. And picking up those later round picks, it's got to be fun too because you can kind of follow their careers because you have the card. You can follow their careers, and I'm sure you've had some really cheap ones you've bought that have now increased and vice versa. There's always that risk with rookies, but I think it's cool to have collecting a player who is currently playing. Tyler Glasnow, for instance, I've been more interested in pitching than I ever have. When I have to wait until, maybe the end of next year or the year after, but it definitely adds a little bit more to it, wouldn't you say, to collecting?
Oh, of course it does. I've watched more NFL football in the last 2 or 3 years than I really had before because, I'm watching, which I think the Patriots are playing now, so I'm not sure, but, Max playing against Brady. That's just awesome. That it's the old Brady versus what Patriot fans want to be the new Brady.
There's never going to be another one, but I
no, there's not. But it's just crazy to get to watch those guys, and then you turn on a game and you've got like Trayvon Diggs, who's I could have bought his card 2 or 3 times for $5-6. And I kind of waited. Well, he's had a stellar start to the season, so I've just seen every one of his jump like $20, $30. So I'm like, well,
they'll do that.
He needs to not have a good 2 or 3 games, and I can try to buy his. But there's guys
that get it now before it's too expensive to get it ever. Right?
Or guys like Ronnie Brown, who was a great defensive back at Alabama, got in the league, didn't play so well. He's now with the Browns, playing great defense with them.
So it kind of started up, came down, and then has made its way back up.
Yeah. So, and some of those guys didn't get the base contenders card. Like they slipped into optic. So I'm going to kind of have to substitute an optic card for them, but it's the optic contenders. So
it works. It
works out, but I'm trying to stay. And then some guys you're like I'm trying to remember who it was, but there's a lineman and a cornerback from Drake Kirkpatrick who is in the set, is released in the set as one of them was actually an exchange, so it was a buyback or it was a redemption, but there's none to be found. Like I think he was put in the set, he didn't sign or they never did anything with him, so it's there in the checklist, but there's absolutely no cards out there of him. Like I can't find sales. So those are kind of things like that bother me because my spreadsheet they're on the checklist, but they're nowhere to be found.
Just gray it out.
Yeah. So I got to find something to replace it. I got to have them in the list. They were drafted.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, but that's just so cool that you can follow those players post career. I enjoy Oregon football. Obviously, with the jacket, I was wearing this in tribute of their loss to prove that I still believe that they're going to do well this year. But other than when DeAnthony Thomas was playing, he's my favorite player to ever play for them. I never got into it the way that you did. I think growing up more in more of a football town or area would have done that. But for me, it was always hockey. So I think that's why the young guns and the goalies. Goalie young guns have been fun because I love to go to the stat sheet and see how every goalie plays every night. And But same with you. I'm sure you
That's
enjoy
awesome.
going on box scores on Sunday and Monday and seeing how your Alabama grads have been performing. So
well, it's here.
cool,
It's so. I mean, that's what we have. You know, the professional sports. We don't have a professional team. We have them close, 3 hours north or east, and you go to Nashville, Atlanta. But if you've never been here and experienced college football, is just it's a way of life for a lot of people. It's I love it. I don't love it that much, like to where it causes problems, but it did in the past. Like I had to get past. There was a point where, I mean, it's this bad. In 2010, Alabama comes off a national championship. We're playing South Carolina. Stephen Garcia goes out of his mind, and South Carolina beats Alabama. I punch a hole in the door. It goes that bad. And that was that day that I was like, I need to evaluate this a little bit.
That's funny.
But it's a piece of culture here. It's so tied into people. I mean, if you're Auburn fan, Alabama fan, for God's sakes, a man killed trees over it. I don't know if you ever saw that whole documentary about Harvey Updike, and he poisoned the Tumors Corner trees in Auburn because some Auburn fan put a Cam Newton jersey on Nick Saban's statue. The guy had some problems,
right?
But so that's the only. Like, it's the only thing I watch. I watch the Braves in the postseason, and I get butterflies. I think these last few games, and they're trying to sweep Philly, finish it off, kind of thing. Yep. But an Alabama game it's
nothing like
it's like this the whole time, And we're fortunate as fans to have such a good team. These, it will never happen again, so you got to enjoy it. But I know everybody else. I know everybody else hates it, but I mean, Nick Saban has created a mindset of people in the state of how you handle things. It's weird. It's better, more than our governor, but it's you really have to think about how good it's going for your team when you're upset that you gave up a first down. When people are mad that a team scored 2 touchdowns in a game against you, even though you beat them by 4 touchdowns. I mean, that's the kind of results that are expected now because of this kind of things.
Right. No, that's that. Thanks for painting that picture. But I guess that just adds to how fun it must be to collect these players, because you have a lot of those memories that connect you with all the players on those cards. You can probably think of a moment when you saw this person throw a touchdown or sack the quarterback, deflect a big pass. Make that tackle at the goal line to keep him from scoring, or anything, or running people.
There's a lot of great memories. Yeah. Look, there's lots of great stadiums. There's lots of great college traditions, but I need to get you down here, Bryant Denny, at an Iron Bowl against Auburn. That's crazy.
Man, I don't even know if I could handle that intensity. I've been to a few college football games when I was in Arizona, but that I don't think anything compares to that. I will say I watched the I'm sorry to rub a sore spot on you, but I turned it on live and watched Chris Davis return that missed field goal for a touchdown. But just like the ripple effect, was that the punch the hole in the door game?
That was my mother took us to a Polar Express in Tennessee, and me and my brother-in-law had to watch it on a TV this big, and we got kicked out of the hotel we were staying in
because you were screaming so much. Well,
yeah,
I think that that just goes to show how intense those. Name's a big Oregon fan, so we are a bit sad right now. The kick six. Yep.
I love Oregon.
I just remember how intense that was, but that's what's been fun too, like coming into hockey and learning about I knew the rivalries going in from the 90s, but just seeing how intense, like when Fleury and Vegas were playing the Canadians, man, he made a pretty bad mistake at a bad time. And unfortunately it led to them losing that series. I mean, that play didn't, but it kind of shifted him being benched, and man, they were brutal. They were on Twitter. They were brutal to him. And it just goes to show how intense, Canadian fans are the most intense hockey fans probably in all of hockey, arguably. And so it's been kind of fun to, be witness to some of these fans and how it's different. Like chirping is different than the trash talking football, I'm sure, but there's some good ones I've read, out there for sure. it's been different, but it's been fun. I have
Scariest
three
place
more.
I've ever been is Tiger Stadium.
Oh yeah, as an Alabama fan.
Yeah, I went to LSU to a game at LSU. It's something else.
Yeah. What are they, like the swamp or something? What do they call that stadium?
It's Death Valley, and it was a night game, so they've been drinking since 7 a.m. And you walk through, like going to the stadium, and all the fans are yelling "Tiger Bait" at you, just in unison at the other fans. It's crazy.
Well, at least you can say you had that experience, right?
Yeah. What else you got, man? Sorry.
No, it's all good. I just have I grabbed three more, so I'll kind of show them quick. Probably the best non-autograph card I've ever bought, and then two pretty substantial ones that have come in. I've shown you both of them. I was so excited about all of them, honestly. But you and I have a pretty special connection to this card for reasons that you and I know. But this is probably the best patch I'll ever see on a card, and this is from the jersey he's wearing in that picture.
Oh yes.
Like,
wow.
You can see it on his right by his chest, right there by his shoulder. And he's smiling in the picture. Yeah, dude, the Supreme patches. Can you imagine if they were doing these in baseball? That just be the best. But
the fact that it came from that event, I mean, and it's on the card. That's just, man.
Knowing that it came from that jersey he's wearing right there is pretty special, and he's smiling in it. And this is the year he won the shootout event they do at the skills competition. They do the skaters come in, and whichever goalie has the most saves wins that event. Yeah. And he beat Pecorine by one save. And I
watched that one. I remember that one.
That was fun. Yeah. And to be able to go and watch that and then see this picture and see that patch that he wore on that card is just, and I got it for a ridiculous price before his cards went crazy. The last two are from go ahead.
I was just saying, I love it. That's my favorite All-Star event.
Me too. And I'm so glad they're doing it before the Olympics this year. I was really afraid they weren't going to do it, and they're still doing an All-Star game. So, of course, I'm hoping that he not only makes the All-Star game because that's exciting and means they're playing well, but that means he'll have a lot of cards in the next year's. Mm-hmm. I mean, a Supreme patch with the Chicago Blackhawks patch is probably going to be impossible for me to afford. Like, I just don't think I could see myself paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a card that would be hundreds less if it wasn't Chicago Blackhawks. So I kind of have reserved myself to probably never owning one of those, and that's okay. But this is funny. Yes, we're getting him there slowly, Name.
Oh, I'm there. I'm already collecting hockey. It's just a little spread out right now.
Yeah, once the season gets going, like you and I on opening night last year, we had a fun chat about just watching the games and whatnot. And of course, my 3 Joel Farabee and your 2 Joel Farabee young guns.
Influencer.
Thanks, buddy. This one's pretty cool because me and my buddy were able to find out where it came from, in essence. So I kind of found out that certain hockey jerseys, like for instance, the 2 behind me, let's say those are waiting for Marc-Andre in his locker prior to the game, there'd be an extra laundry tag because they were going to use that jersey for either like selling that or giving to Upper Deck or selling to Upper Deck to be using cards, or they'd sell game used jerseys for auction that would go to, like, the money would go to charity or whatever they use for the money. So this is a pretty incredible card for a lot of reasons, but it's a laundry tag. If it's going to focus for me, it's a laundry tag autograph out of 4. And the cool thing is the side of the card is red, which is neat. But
awesome.
That patch, this is part of the laundry tag that was on there, and it says his number, Pittsburgh, but it also there's a 101 from this exact set. And I'm guessing the patches all came from the same jersey. I would think they would. So assuming that, I found out that is from a game against the Arizona Coyotes at the beginning of the season, 2015, in October. I think it was October 20th or something like that. So
that's an incredible card, and it's the cup. So I mean, that's
the top of the line,
man.
Yeah.
Those cards are amazing. But that card
cup kills it, man.
It's autographed too. I mean, was it red ink?
Yep, you put red ink on there. Yep.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that was one of those when it first got listed. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to afford this because the buy it now was crazy high. But I've said this time and time again, do not be afraid to reach out to a seller and strike up a conversation. Some of them don't message you back, and you know what? that's fine. That's going to happen. But this guy you should have seen the packaging. I mean, he had like the thick bubble wrap, and he like wrapped it all like this big and put that inside of like a box. And
wow,
that came with a Sweet Spot autograph. Like they did this crazy short print set where it was a baseball themed Sweet Spot, but it was a Marc-Andre Fleury and like as a goalie. It was kind of crazy. I thought it was gimmicky, but then I found out they're super short printed. So
wow,
I got those two from him. But yeah, it struck up a conversation, and he lowered the price substantially, knowing that it was going to go to its its forever home. So I took a picture of it in the display case and sent it to him. Said, "Thank you so much. This is awesome." So
wow.
really happy about that. The last one came in a couple days before my birthday, which was yesterday. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, happy birthday, man.
Yeah, thanks, dude. I mean, it's funny when you get older, you're like, okay, it's just to spend time with family and friends, and kind of an excuse to, I don't know, to ask people to hang out in essence. But it was really, it was special. It was a lot of fun to spend time with friends and family. But I've had this card on my watch list since I decided I'm going to collect Marc-Andre Fleury. This is probably, I don't know, a spring break. So I've had it on there ever since. And like when summertime comes, I'm going to find a way to get it. And I made some offers that I thought were good. And this guy named Mitchell was like, I can't go that low. Sorry. So he's been on vacation for a while. And now that I've sold my A-rods, I'm like, it says he's coming back on this day. It was like the 23rd of September. I'm like, I am going to wait and then keep checking. And so, when it says seller's on vacation, well, I checked and he wasn't on vacation anymore. And I sent what I felt was a very fair offer and messaged him. And again, he said, you know what? This sounds like a pretty good offer. I'm glad it's going to you. And he said, yes, I'll accept it. So here it is. It's, in my opinion, the most beautiful card in the collection. And yeah, I'm very, very happy to have this card now. This is a Sidney Crosby rookie tribute. So Crosby's rookie looked just like this. But so they brought it back the year after the Penguins won the Cup in 2009, 2010. So this is his Cup setup, his Cup mask. And that patch, actually, believe it or not, came from, it was really cool. Aaron, who Crease Collector on Instagram, sent me a picture, and the Penguins had a tribute shoulder patch, like 250 years that Pittsburgh was a city. And so that is the top of the 2 from 250, and above it said Pittsburgh in small letters. That's the beginning of the word Pittsburgh. So for it to say Pitt and him being on the Penguins, I was like, dude, this is the perfect card because he's in a Stanley Cup mask, and it was just it was perfect. So that is by far it's my most expensive card, but it's also probably my one of my favorites too. So
that's an incredible design. It's a beautiful card.
Yeah, man. Thanks. I one thing I have to say is, like you, and I don't have as good of an excuse, but other than the fact that I was finishing a class up, I've really wanted to get back into making videos, but I kind of am overwhelmed because there's all these beautiful, unique cards, and I don't want to like jam them all into one video, and it kind of they could all be the same in essence. So I have to find a way to kind of break them up. But that's a big goal of mine going forward. I've definitely peaked, and it's going to be kind of slowing down now, which is I need until Platinum comes out, and so just trying to get some videos out for people to watch and hopefully motivate others to make them. I know Name, I've told him many times, like, I want to see some more videos. He does a lot of front facing videos, which is cool because you can see how excited he is about his indigenous collection that he has, which is just, it's cool because Fleury's rookie and a lot of his players that he collects, their rookies are in the same sets. And so we can kind of compare and say, oh yeah, we should look for these and whatnot. So it's been fun.
It's awesome.
Cool, man.
I've got you an idea though. I got an idea for a video for you. So
yeah, well, send it my way, dude. Send it on Messenger. I'm always up to just trying new things, but I think I'm going to go back to filming at the location where I did my A-Rod ones on the counter next to my stove because the lighting is perfect. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely need to do some themes though, some like top this and just try to slowly unveil the collection because it's pretty spectacular. What I've been fortunate enough to find, and all thanks to the connections I've made in the hobby and just being diligent in my searches and whatnot. So yeah, well, same to you, Ben. I know you've got some Freemans that I haven't seen, and I would love to see like an Alabama, that like just kind of a whole overview on that set. Would be really fun.
Yeah, I had a few different ideas for that set. So I think the idea that I'm thinking about for me is something that I'm going to share with you, because I feel like it would be pretty cool to see us kind of do something like that in tandem with different
All
sets.
right. That'd be fun. Yeah, that would be fun, dude. I'm definitely up for it. I think motivating each other to do videos is I mean, I think everybody that's still watching here can agree that watching others do videos will definitely motivate you to make them.
Yeah.
Alan just posted that video of the cards I sent him, and I'm like, okay, I really want to do that. So I was going to use this as a springboard to letting people know that to be looking out for those on Tomcat Sports Cards, because they're a lot of fun to do, and it's fun to go back and watch them. I'm sure you've done that too with some of your older videos. You go back like, oh man, I remember when that card came in, and just talking with collectors about it, and then you go and see other people's videos, and it definitely is something I would love to get back into, that I was doing more with my A-Rod collection.
I hear you, man. Let's do it. Let's do it
Let's
together.
do it, man. Yeah, hit me up after this episode's over. Well, to Ray, Uniair, Name, I know you guys have been here for a long time. Thank you so much. We had significant inserts in here. Henry was in here for a bit doing Henry things, which I loved. And let's see if I don't – Schmidt Collector, Eric, of course, Jeremy, everybody else that's been in here. My dad commented at the very beginning, and there's somebody else that I hope was in here checking this out at some point. But thank you all for checking it out, sticking with us. And Ryan, thank you again for agreeing to take time away from the family and the sorting of cards to come and interview and also be interviewed. It was fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Hey, thanks again for giving me the opportunity. I really enjoy it. The kids and the wife are like, I tell them, hey, I got a podcast, and they're like, okay, no problem. They're pretty cool about it. So they know that's one thing that's been super great about it. She really supports what I do. She likes the fact that I enjoy it. So, but thank you so much for letting me do the interview side with you. That's been great. So, and thanks to everybody on the great comments, the input. That really helps the show kind of move along with folks. So
awesome. Thank you, Ray. And thank you,
Ray,
for your comments. Uniair, I'm going to be chatting with you very soon, because he's been helping me afford Fleury cards, if you know what I mean. And it's been really cool to see how happy he's been to be able to, if you don't mind me saying this, Uniair, get some of the A-Rods that I loved. And I sent him a pretty cool package the other day that he got from me, and he was just so excited about it. That's how it should be. When you're selling cards, at least you'd like to think name's all about Roll Tide, but don't forget.
There we go.
Name, come on, we got we got to worry about. And
I got you, man.
Yeah. And then, Ray, that's cool that you're going to be able to get.
Ray, I will.
That's going to be great. So cool, people. Well, we'll see you next week. I know there was a question. Am I going to stop the essential credentials again? No, it might be just once a month. It could be twice a month. I know next week I'm going to have, I can't believe I'm doing this, but Will and Chris Spence are very excited. Chris Spence has been getting into digital cards. It just hurts me to say it. He's going to come on. Yeah, I know. He's going to come on here with his brother, and we're going to chat about this idea and why it's become popular, because I don't like it at all. I particularly hate when I see a sweet Fleury card or a glass now, and then I realize it's a digital card. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I could literally just take a picture of this. But I, as a good debater, want to hear their side of it and just see what people think, especially us 90s collectors. Like, digital cards are not good in my mind, but whatever. Yeah. But whenever I see that, I think of not for trades. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Not what does that stand for?
I don't know.
Uniair, what does that mean? Like,
Uniair, I know this much.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the fact, though, that we talk about allowing people to enjoy the way they collect. So, we are focused on what we like, but we got to kind of open up our minds to see what other people like. So,
right, for sure. Yeah. Okay, you know what? That's going too far, Name. Come on, man. Stick with it.
Look,
you got a chance.
1 week at a time. You never know.
Non-fungible tokens. There's a word. There's a phrase I'm not going to be able to get out of my head.
Fungible.
Because I'm going to bring my Upper Deck EPAC experience into it, because they've kind of bridged the best of both worlds. Because you get a lot of the base cards are basically digital, but then you can combine them to make real cards that can go in a case. And they're also, any of the inserts that you hit from EPAC are actual cards. And I guess ComC is part of that. So it's going to be, yeah, okay, I thought so. It's going to be a fun discussion, because I'm going to kind of talk about what I think Topps, when Fanatics is the owner of Topps and Panini, what they should do to, like the EPAC's doing. So that'll be fun. So we'll do episodes kind of when interesting topics come up. I still collect Pacific Airrod. I still collect glass now cheaply, which makes me happy. And so I can bring my modern knowledge across. And, Ryan and Andy and Tyler and Will and Jeremy, we'll definitely try to get on once a month or so and just have some fun discussions. So yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's just there's not going to be any personal videos necessarily, except maybe with Pacific stuff. So Ryan, when can we maybe expect the next Southern Card Collector video? Not to put the pressure on.
I'm off Columbus Day. Is it Columbus Day the 11th? Is that what that is?
Oh yeah, a day that we definitely don't get off. Yeah.
I don't know how we got it off this year, but so maybe that's next weekend or
next Monday. Next Monday.
So maybe sometime this coming weekend I can get something going.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Well, thanks again, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next weekend when me and Will and Chris are here debating. That should be fun. See you guys.